League of Legends, The Lord of the Thousand Year War. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 151, Communication Between Kings. Without user's guidance, Lester, who was immersed in the Lake of the Soul, still discovered a strange resonance from the outside world. It was like something that was originally one was split into several parts. Even if they were thousands of miles apart, they could always produce some connections that transcend time and space. Many people call it destiny or the sixth sense. Between people and things, and even between people and an unknown world, more or less, there will always be some strange entanglements that have nothing to do with quantum. Although there is no evidence to prove that the resonance in the Lake of the Soul is a special thing that is connected to oneself calling oneself, it also allows Lester to find a direction, a general direction, that can lead the team forward in the dark. During the action, no one questioned it. Following the perception, Lester got up again and led the team to go deeper. After passing several forks in the road, they came to a naturally formed open cave. With the dim residual light of mica and luminous crystals, everyone could see dense red dots flickering in the darkness. At this point, there was no way back. As the wizard released the lighting magic, everyone saw the huge ratman standing among the little mice, and the ratman warriors kneeling on the ground in silence. The shocking scene of thousands of rats worshipping made the humans present feel the impact of another alien civilization. The tall ratman calmly accepted the worship of his people, just like another king who was high above. Although Lester had long heard that the red-skinned magic rats had their own organization and social culture, they were inevitably affected by the racial prejudice brought about by the stupid and cowardly behavior of the rats on weekdays. They always felt that this was just a group of strange rats that mutated under the magic energy. Until this moment, when everyone present really witnessed this scene, they completely regarded this group of lowly rats as intelligent creatures of another civilization in their hearts. Discipline, rules, majesty, wisdom. These are definitely not things that can be explained by simple magical mutation. Seeing what happened in front of him, as if he saw the playfulness in the eyes of the tall rat man, Morris suddenly knelt on one knee and said loudly, "Kneel down to greet the Lord." After Morris, the other 4 Nightblade assassins also knelt down, followed by the outermost black guards. "Kneel down to greet the Lord." After everyone knelt down, User took the lead and knelt on one knee. The other 2 mages looked at each other and knelt down. At this point, there were only 2 people who were qualified to stand in the huge crypt. The momentum of the humans, who were suppressed by the ratman, turned around instantly. Amid the loud shouts, the shock of the ratman civilization gradually faded. Instead, the rats looked at the imposing humans with some fear. The ratmen have the Rat King, and humans also have the unrivaled Lord. The meaning of killing began to brew. Whether it was rats or humans, they handed the initiative to their leaders. From ancient times to the present, it is often only the leaders who can truly decide the life and death of the tribe. Seeing the humans' actions, the Rat King, who was originally very proud of the complete submission of his people, could not help but restrain his pride, and his eyes became more solemn. With such a king who convinced his subordinates, it was no wonder that dozens of people dared to go deep into the underground alone and kill their own nest. Standing in place, Lester lifted his helmet. The man's eyes moved away from the rats and the rat general who could only run away, and were placed on the huge rat man who was looking at him. The red bold fur was covered with twisted mysterious patterns. Under the lighting magic, the squinting rat man had a calm expression that was no different from that of a human. His sturdy limbs and huge rat tail like a steel whip stood on the ground, and his huge dark red claws hung on both sides of his body. The giant rat wearing dark red animal skin armor wore a dazzling crown. The crown was inlaid with 4-color polyhedral conical long crystals that were more than 8 centimeters long, which were light pink, dark green, azure blue and dark purple. It did not look like the creation of the Ratman himself, but rather the style of underground ruins. The most eye-catching thing is that there is a flashing red stone in the center of the crown, which looks very evil. It is neither a gem nor a crystal, but a strange magic item. In the flashing light, the Blood Knight's plate armor and the flame-shaped sword seemed to resonate with the light emitted by the redstone. On the other side, the Rat King also looked at Lester, who had revealed his face. After scanning him up and down several times, the Rat King spoke in standard Narxan. I didn't expect that the bloodstone of my tribe would be used to make such exquisite armor and weapons in the hands of you humans. The things that my tribe is proud of have become the cause of heavy damage to my tribe in the hands of foreigners. It's really ironic. Seeing that the Rat King had no intention of starting a war directly, Lester inserted the flame-shaped sword into the ground. Before the life and death battle, he didn't mind talking to this talking, mature rat about the life of a rat. After all, he was still very interested in how such a group of mutant rats appeared underground. Every great invention and discovery, at the beginning, was never considered how to benefit life, but how to prevent its achievements from falling into the hands of the enemy and becoming a tool to hurt oneself. You have just come to this world. It is normal that you don't understand. Yes, it was not until today that I realized this. I made a fatal mistake. From the beginning, I shouldn't have let the bloodstone flow into your hands. The iron armor made by you humans alone cannot resist the crossbows of my people. I should have launched a full-scale war on the ground after preparation and wiped you all out at once. Unfortunately, there is no regret medicine to buy in this world. You are right, but although there is no regret medicine, there is a possibility of remedy. I have so many people. Do you think you can beat me? And, King of Humans, do you really understand what it means? He had only said half of the words when the lighting magic suddenly dissipated. The Rat King, who was about to continue to suppress the momentum of humans, pointed seriously at his countless people, but his sight fell into darkness, and the atmosphere was a little awkward for a while. He can see humans, but humans can't see him, so isn't it a waste of time? He was a little at a loss, until the ruthless magic lighting machine user quietly added a lighting spell, and the Rat King found his own rhythm again. In the magic white light that lit up again, the somewhat confused Rat King hurriedly added a proud and domineering sneer, and the three words that had not yet been finished. Power. The king's momentum cannot fall. As long as he points and asks, no matter whether the human answers, whether he can beat him or not, his momentum will be suppressed by himself. Sure enough, the human king's expression became much more serious. Look, he slowly opened his lips, and he must have been at a loss. Look, he is about to be oppressed by his own momentum and completely surrender. Big rat, I say, are these little rats all your offspring? You are a bit of a thing, haha, don't you think? What offspring? Looking at the extremely solemn and serious human king, the Rat King was at a loss. Didn't I ask you about victory and power now? How did you get to the point of having children? So what? They are all my offspring, my most heroic ones. How did you give birth? How did you give birth to so many? Give me some experience. The Rat King was not angry when he was interrupted by the rude human. He took a deep breath and showed some pride. It was obvious that this human had never given birth to a child. Compared with himself, he was much more inexperienced. Chapter 152. The racial struggle between humans and rats. Of course it was born to my queen. At this point, the Bloodstone Rat King suddenly remembered that he left in a hurry and did not close the stone door of the sacrificial room when he left. The Rat King suddenly felt a little uncomfortable and always felt that he should not make such a low-level mistake. But what if the door was not closed? That was a forbidden place that no one could break into. Whoever went there would die. The rats were afraid of death, not to mention that they had no tools to commit crimes. So how could they irritate me? But the problem, there would never be any rats who dared to sneak in when I was not there, right? If there were really rats who sneaked in, with the Queen of Rats' appearance, she could drive away the intruder, right? No, it seems that I missed something. What was it? Thinking back to the days and nights with the Queen of Rat, the Bloodstone Rat King's red face turned a little blue, and he felt very uncomfortable. Looking at the Rat King, who suddenly became absent-minded strangely, Lester looked around, smiled silently, and picked up the flame-shaped sword. This rat, pitiful man without a doubt. In his previous life, The poor American male ghosts who were robbed of their property by their cheating wives, and driven out of their homes by their adulterers, and became homeless all had this expression when they noticed that something was wrong with their wives. He had seen it many times. There was no doubt that the current Rat King had flaws, but he was not going to attack the other party by sneak attack. After all, he also had some things he wanted to ask the Big Rat. If the Big Rat broke through the defense, there would be no conversation. I see you have some troubles. It's none of your business. Human. The Rat King's emotions obviously fluctuated more, no longer as calm as before. Lester also stopped talking. He still had questions to ask. I don't have much to say to you. I just want to know why you chose to launch the attack today. You had many opportunities before, right? He sneered and forced himself to forget those messy and annoying things. The Rat King felt that there was no need to hide anything from the dead. It was rare to show off to foreigners who were equally intelligent. If he didn't have this tolerance, it would be a failure. I have to say that I admire the courage of you humans. Even with the equipment made of bloodstone of our race, a few dozen people dared to go deep underground to face 1,000 times more enemies. It is not something that ordinary life can do. Sandworms, ants, worms, shadow spiders, cave dwellers, mushroom people. They are all defeated by our race. Only you humans dare to go deep into the enemy's cave and kill here. I admire you and your subordinates, humans, so I'm willing to share the news of the Holy Stone with you, an ignorant person. Holy Stone. It can't be the crown on your head, right? Hearing this word, Lester quickly focused his eyes on the crown. The sharp stone flashing red light, with magical perception, seemed to have a strange symbol on the stone, like a tadpole hovering its body, containing powerful power. Yes, the Holy Stone is on the crown, or it is the Holy Stone of Blood. Taking off his bloodstone crown, the Rat King looked particularly serious. Only at this moment, he would forget everything, forget the Rat Queen, and serve the will of the Bloodstone wholeheartedly. Of course, he would still scold the Bloodstone for striking for no reason. The Bloodstone is the origin of my tribe. It has given my tribe the wisdom to see through everything, the power comparable to that of ants, and the Bloodstone that can be used to make weapons. It is the source of all power, and it is everything to the Bloodstone tribe. Without going into the details of the sanctification ceremony or the Bloodstone transformation ceremony, the Rat King turned the topic to Lester. The Bloodstone told me that you also have fragments of the Holy Stone on your body. My tribe launched the attack only for you, and for the other Holy Stone in your body. But now it seems that you, human, don't know what kind of power you have. This can only mean one thing. What does this mean? The Rat King sneered, holding the Bloodstone crown, and kneeling on the ground, with a pious face. This shows that the Holy Stone does not recognize you, otherwise the Holy Stone will definitely communicate with you, just like the close and pure relationship between me and the Holy Stone of Blood. Lester has already recognized the red stone on the Rat King's crown as the World Rune, but he is more cautious in his heart. Lester knows what the World Rune means. This is a big problem that Riz has been dealing with for thousands of years and has not solved. No wonder this group of rats has undergone such serious mutations and even formed a complete intelligent race in a short period of time. Thinking about it now, the speculation of myself and Meredith was indeed correct. In a larger sense, the Nokmachi plane has changed from rich and fertile to barren and dry. I'm afraid that it is inseparable from the World Rune hidden under the Silver Mountains. I just don't know if the original world was Riz who secretly recovered the rune and dealt with the rats. If so, how strong is Riz? If the Rat King is right, and there is a rune on his body that he got without realizing it, what will Riz do when facing a rune fused into the human body? You said there won't be any danger of losing control. You said you won't hurt the world. No, child, you don't know what the thing in you means. It is the source of all disasters. It is not something that humans can control. I'm sorry, child. Although you are polite, kind, and friendly, and will work for the welfare of the people of Emerald Territory, and are very useful to the Valoran continent, especially to me, and are my good friend, I like you very much. But, you know, Lester, I have no choice, because you have taken the inevitable path of destruction. Even the calm at this moment is just an illusion before the disaster. I must correct my mistakes. Losing you must be my destiny, just like my teacher Tyrus. If this is a sin, I'm willing to accept it. If it was Riz, after he said the above words with an apologetic look on his face, he would definitely rub a ball of powerful arcane energy to blast himself into slag and recover the runes from the fragments of his body, right? There would be absolutely no room for compromise, and he would not listen to any of his own explanations. As for the world runes, that could not be taken out, he could not beat Riz. Except for death, he would not have a second way out. Thinking that he was going to send people out to look for Riz and deliberately establish a relationship with the good old man Riz, Lester's face could no longer remain calm. He realized with some fear that he almost sent himself into a desperate situation. This is really a case of looking for trouble. Ha ha ha. You are finally afraid. You finally realized that you are just an ignorant pawn. Human, you look very ugly. Lester glared at the Rat King coldly and replied, yes, I'm afraid, but I will not kneel down to a shining stone like you and offer my knees and dignity. Your people kneel down to you and regard you as their leader, but you offer your knees to a cold stone. This is the king of rats. It's ridiculous. You don't understand the greatness of the holy stone at all. Human, you don't even have the qualifications to offer your knees. Standing up, the Rat King, who was poked in the sore spot, put the crown on his head again and completely lost his patience in talking. As a king, what he hates most is others saying that he does not have the dignity of a king. Come on, human, let's have the final showdown. Let's speak with strength. The winner gets everything, the loser gets nothing. Remember, you have no room to refuse. As the Rat King finished speaking, countless rats rushed out from all directions, directly blocking everyone's way back, but leaving only Lester and the Rat King with room to fight. The atmosphere was tense to the extreme for a while. The black guards held their weapons alertly and were ready to fight to the death at any time. The three black wizards took the time to meditate, preparing to release large-scale self-destructive spells. The 5 Nightblade killers had different expressions, but they looked relaxed. Hector even smiled with a cracked mouth, as if he was about to be freed. But Northless smiled a little charmingly, looking at the bloody back in front with admiration and love. In his words, at this moment, she was as beautiful as his fiancé, and he was as handsome as the most perfect man. Only Alice, who was closest to the man, stared at him with regret, not hiding her feelings, making the man who turned around forget about a gay man who had lost his wife. In a trance, he seemed to have returned to the scene 4 years ago, when he first saw the girl, when he inspected the mines in the shimmering Silver Mountains. This resolute girl has grown up and become braver. Perhaps for me, it was just an encouraging kiss, but for the girl, it was a young love that was enough to remember for a lifetime. Because of the unknown runes on my body, I really had a lot of emotional debts. The key is that unlike in my previous life, I can't just pat my butt and walk away. This is a promise to her. Slowly moving his eyes, he scanned the soldiers and mages who followed him into the GD. The faces of the followers were fanatical, serious, sad, calm, and even had 2 admirers. Lester smiled, chewed on the emotions of the followers, and swallowed them calmly. This is something that a lonely killer has never felt before. As a leader, he must be responsible for every follower, every decision, and every death. He was honored to have a group of followers who were willing to go to death with him. Trust me. In the impatient look of the Rat King, the man calmly drew out the flame-shaped sword and picked up the heavy magic steel shield again. I will take you out alive and kill all the enemies who stand in my way. As the voice fell, the Blood Knight put down his helmet. The battle of life and death suddenly broke out in the underground world of the Silver Mountains. There was no applause or cheers. The winner survived, and the loser became a dry skeleton. The audience was thousands of prostrate rats and 25 lonely and exhausted humans. There was no other interference, except the illumination magic cast by the wizard. If the Rat King was carrying the life and death of a tribe, Lester was carrying the lives of thousands of people in the Emerald Territory. Any small thing will lead reality to a different future. No one dared to be sure whether the Rat King, who had obtained the second rune, would continue to hide underground and wait for the FBI wizard to open the door and confiscate the contraband. Therefore, this was a battle where no one could afford the consequences of failure. It was not only a life and death battle between two people, but also a war of survival between two forces. Amid the harsh sound of metal collision, Lester used a large shield to block the sharp rat claws with after images. Scarlet waves of light burst out on the shield for the second time. The man was pushed back several meters by the powerful and violent rune power, and the magic steel plate armor boots plowed 2 deep grooves on the ground. After repelling the man, the 3-meter-tall Rat King screamed, causing deep pain in the ears of the audience. The 3 meditating mages were dizzy. In order to avoid internal injuries caused by the sound wave attack, the mages had to stop meditating. The Rat King, who was nearly twice the size of the man, had red evil veins all over his body, like blood vessels. In addition to the 2 long horns that were brewing violent blood mist, the bloodstone crown on the double horns burst out with a demonic light, turning the rat claws into a magical weapon that was enough to split mountains and rocks and confront the flame-shaped sword. Any common iron will be easily torn apart by the giant claws strengthened by the runes. Even the magic steel equipment born from the runes themselves is a bit difficult to parry, so that the magic steel flame-shaped sword that is invincible has many conspicuous scratches on the smooth mirror surface, which makes Lester understand that, if he parries a few more times, he may have to fight with bare hands. You don't understand the power of the Holy Stone at all. Human. Bloodstone is born from the Holy Stone. Why do you fight me with bloodstone equipment? The peaceful and standard Narxan language has long become violent and distorted under the influence of the runes. The powerful hind legs kicked the ground fiercely. At the same time as the Rat King rushed towards Lester, several small stones that were broken by the huge force shot towards the rat group and directly killed several unlucky rats in the exploding blood mist. However, the rats were not afraid, but worshipped and madly, staring at the Great Father who suppressed humans. What if a few compatriots died? Being able to suppress the humans who were chasing him and killing him so that they dared not show their heads and could only use shields for defense. What could be more gratifying than having a Great Father? Not daring to forcibly parry the charge of the Rat King, Lester stepped on the ground with his right foot and forced his body to jump to the left, narrowly avoiding the Rat King's horns wrapped in red mist, allowing the Rat King to crash into the rat group. Under the impact of the red mist horns, hundreds of ratmen who blocked the Rat King's footsteps turned into blood mist all over the sky, and the smell of blood in the air instantly became strong. The Rat King used too much force and directly inserted his horns into the extremely dense and hard stone wall, and could not pull them out for a while. The surviving rats could no longer sit still, and fled in panic. It would be hard to bear so many deaths, and those who don't run are really fools. Lester would not miss such a counterattack opportunity. He rushed forward and stabbed the soft tail base with the flame-shaped sword, causing the Rat King to break free from the stone wall in pain. Lester blocked the sweep of the rat tail with his shield and was knocked back several meters. The broken stone wall linked the boulders on the upper part and fell to the ground like a rainstorm, blocking the passage into the crypt, and the way for humans was blocked. Human. You are courting death. Shaking his dizzy head, the Rat King wiped his bloody butt and could not help but get furious. For so many years, he stabbed others himself. How could he let others stab him? This human is really shameless. Although he was angry, the Bloodstone Rat King stood in the blood mist. Lester looked at the blood mist that dissipated quickly and frowned tightly. He is using runes to absorb the blood mist, further stimulating the power of the runes to strengthen himself, and it may even have the effect of recovering from injuries. What a difficult guy. In Lester's magic vision, the Blood Holy Stone on the head of the Rat King was madly absorbing blood mist and some strange life energy. After strengthening itself, it further fed back to the Rat King, making the Rat King's rune power stronger, and the bleeding tail stopped bleeding. Although it was a one-on-one duel, this big rat was still sneaking around and using the lives of its people to recover from its injuries. It really didn't change the cunning nature of the rat people, but I didn't have much choice. Under the violent power of the rune, the Blood Knight's shield and the broad-bladed flame-shaped sword could not resist head-on. With the power of the rune, the Rat King would only become stronger and stronger by absorbing the physical energy of the dead rats. If this goes on, it's only a matter of time before I lose. No wonder this big rat is so confident. When he has the upper hand, he is willing to talk to me so much. It turns out that he has taken me for granted. However, using the flesh and blood of his own people as blood food for healing. Is this the king? The man turned his head and looked at the warriors behind him who were full of trust. If Alice and Morris were used to contain the Rat King, perhaps he would have a chance of survival. With information about many runelands in his hands, as long as he could get out alive, he would always find enough support to completely kill the rats. Human, do you feel fear? Abandoned by the Holy Stone, you would never have thought that you would be so powerless one day. Jumping high, the Bloodstone Rat King waved his claws and slapped Lester hard, cutting through the air, and the violent energy tore the earth apart. The man jumped back at the critical moment and avoided the fatal blow. Boom. The rocks shattered and dust filled the surroundings, making it difficult for the humans watching the battle to see the situation for a while. The timid rats became more agitated and ran away a lot, making the situation even more chaotic. Alice, who was watching the battle, felt nervous, fearing that the man would die under the terrible palm strike, but she felt a strong wind rushing towards her. She couldn't help but tighten her expression, clenched the spear in her hand, and was about to stab out. It was not until the familiar whispers appeared in her ears that the girl let down her guard and felt relieved. Alice, find Morris and have user and other mages use long-lasting range, harmony, fire magic to drive away the ratmen. Don't hold back. After releasing them, run deeper and use magic to seal the passage you left as much as possible. Try to find a suitable escape route and find a way to return to the Emerald Territory. Tell Rose about what happened here, and she will handle it. Leave this to me. I can handle it. It seemed that the girl was hugged by the man in hard armor and hit by the Blood Knight a few times. Before she could react, the tall figures surrounding her quickly disappeared. After the voice fell, the man seemed to have never appeared. Her heart tightened. Although she had a bad feeling, the girl still chose to trust the man. The girl in the dust no longer hesitated. After piercing several ratmen that blocked her way, Alice quickly retreated behind her. She quickly found Morris, who was killing rats efficiently among the chaotic figures who were slashing rats. She told him what the man wanted her to convey. After hearing this, Morris quickly found Urza, who was protected by the Black Guards. After Urza finished listening, he discussed with the three mages before calling for others to move deeper into the dungeon with them. In the chaos, neither the Rat King nor the running ratman cared about this. Under the domineering power of the runes, all lives were on the verge of death, so how could they care about anything else? Human, you only know how to escape. Cowardly coward. Useless king. Knowing that his attack did not hit the target, the angry Bloodstone Rat King picked up a half-meter sized stone that was broken in half after the dust dissipated, and threw it directly at Lester, who was hiding beside the stone wall. Do you think you can hide forever? Stinky rat. Has any of your stupid sons ever told you that your cheap father talks too much nonsense? Lester dodged the terrible boulder that was embedded directly into the stone wall and used a large shield to protect his back from the cracking of the stone and began to refute. Big rat, have you ever thought about what terrible things the mother rat who gave birth to your child is experiencing now? No, maybe it's not terrible things, but pleasant things. You always deceive yourself like this, thinking that this is impossible, that is impossible, but the fact is that all the impossibilities in your heart have happened countless times in things you don't know. The Bloodstone Rat King was happily wreaking havoc in his heart. After hearing this, he suddenly remembered that he had not closed the stone door when he left. The thorn in his heart was hit hard by the man with a hammer at this moment, and it easily pierced his heart. The Rat King howled wildly and finally understood what was wrong with the place he had not noticed just now. The illusions just now lingered in his mind again, like a nightmare that refused to dissipate for a long time. Soon, the strange rat head hugging the Rat Queen turned into a familiar face. The one-horned priest who reported to him. The Bloodstone Rat King was furious. He was fighting for his tribe and for glory, but what was his high priest doing? Why couldn't he see where the high priest was? Why didn't the high priest come with him? Question mark? My priest. Where is Swartscream? Why didn't my priest come with me? Hoo-la la. After the spell was guided, the fire element violently surrounded the crypt, illuminating every inch of the hard stone ground, quickly devouring the rat warriors who refused to leave and flee, and dispersing the last holdouts. Urza hesitated for a moment, but still tried his best to cast a long lighting magic. After the injured Dang fled in a hurry, the magic of rock explosion, that had been guided for a long time, was activated. The entrance to the deeper part of the cave was cut off by the falling huge rocks, and the last way out of the cave was also blocked. The ratmen, who had nowhere to escape, were burned and swallowed by the flames, and fled in all directions with screams, and soon turned into black ash. In the flames, staring at the violent and grieving bloodstained Rat King, Lester raised the square shield, stood the sword in front of him, and laughed mockingly. "My Rat King, your sacrifice, the guy named Swart Screech, is probably in some female mouse's bed, working hard for your offspring." Squeak, squeak, squeak. In order to thank the first reader who gave a reward to the helmsman, a long name will attract people to read it. Dear reader, I will add one more chapter today. This chapter will have 6k plus words, and it will be published 3 in 1 to make it more enjoyable for everyone to read. In addition, this extra chapter will not be counted in the update bounty for February, but will be a separate thank you. When the time comes, the helmsman's extra chapter will be counted again. To be honest, I have always been concise and clear when it comes to adding chapters, and I will never delay, so please rest assured. Chapter 153, Absolute Crush. Give me your body, and I will bring you supreme power. In his rage, the bloodstained Rat King heard the call of the Holy Bloodstone. Obey me, and you can get more. Obey you, obey you. I will die. I can defeat him. Seeing the big rat start to lose consciousness, Lester, who was extremely experienced in combat, rushed forward without hesitation, stabbed the bloodstained Rat King's leg with a sword, and pulled hard. A handful of sticky dark red blood fell to the ground, the hard red fur was torn by the blade, and the pain of the Achilles tendon nerve being cut successfully made the bloodstained Rat King sober up. Despicable human. The giant tail swept across, and with a terrible whistling sound, it whipped towards Lester. The man only had time to protect himself with a shield, and was directly knocked away by the tail, surrounded by the power of runes, smashing a spider web-like deep pit in the broken rock wall, and slowly slid to the ground. There were several more cracks on the magic steel square shield. After thinking about it, Lester, who was slumped on the ground, let go of his hand, and dropped the shield. In this attack, the most terrifying thing was not the impact force of the steel whip truck, but the rune power of the rune stone, which lingered around the body like a maggot on the tarsal bone, slowly grasping the vitality, so that Lester had no strength to stand up for a while. The Rat King, who was in a dominant position, lowered his head, and made a charge and collision posture again. He bent down, and his horns began to accumulate rune power, and the injury at the root of his leg was temporarily suppressed by the rune power. The price of sin is death. Ignoring the Rat King's clamor, Lester forced his body to sit up straight, and use the magic steel plate armor to communicate with the somewhat manic ice element in the magic field. In a place where the Rat King could not see, countless ice element attached to the surroundings of the plate armor, expelling the evil rune power bit by bit. Launching another collision, the Rat King mercilessly put Lester to death. Boom. Between the shaking of the earth and the mountains, the Rat King's horns drilled through the hard stone and sank deeply into the mountain, but still did not touch the object of anger. You are still so irritable, little mouse. This is the most incompetent performance. Behind the bloodstained Rat King, Lester abandoned the idea of the magic circle and simply injected all the condensed violent ice element into the flame-shaped sword. After the flame-shaped sword flashing with light blue magic light was on the verge of the critical point of magic energy, it pierced the Rat King's lower back fiercely. Squeak. Blackthorn Rose Street, Rose's mansion. Did you make it yourself? How long did it take? How can I give something given to you to others? The man hugged Rose's lower back and buried his head in the woman's rose-scented hair, greedily demanding the woman's breath. Do you like it? Rose played with the willow-shaped double-edged dagger that the man gave her. The dagger was about 15 centimeters long, small and cute, with a mysterious dark red luster flowing on the blade, and made of the purest mountain copper. There is a blooming rose mark on the back of the integrated hilt, and the two blades of the dagger are engraved with the ancient Valoran characters, R and L, which obviously correspond to the names of Rose and Lester. After looking at it for a long time, the woman suddenly covered her mouth and laughed, leaned back, and leaned her head on the man's forehead, very happy. Woman, what are you laughing at? The man's voice was a little dissatisfied, and he rubbed the woman's soft flesh hard, making the woman giggle. Who stop it, since this dagger is engraved with your and my names. You, an ancient remnant, can't run away. I'm a great black magician. This dagger has your mark, and I can find you at any time. I didn't want to run away when I was here with you. As long as you, this Rose, are willing to stay with me, I will never leave you or betray you. The woman was stunned, and the unnatural look quickly disappeared. HMPH, you know Rose will always be yours, yet you still say such cunning things. Stinky man, but then again, pure orichalcum itself can be used as a magical material. As long as we introduce appropriate magical element, allowing the magic to resonate with the orichalcum, and then suddenly break through the critical value of the orichalcum's absorption of magic power, the stable structure will be destroyed in the violent shock. Will there be an explosion? You are really smart, my man. What should I use to repay you for your small gift? Turning around, the woman holding the dagger put her arms around the man's neck and pecked the man's lips lightly. Very naughty. Let's give it a name first. How about calling it Frost Moon Rose? Nonsense. Where is the moon? You are the white moon in my heart. What should I do? The humble little Rose wants to see the moonlight now, but it's daytime now. Almost. The flame-shaped sword that pierced the Rat King's body began to flicker unsteadily. The powerful magic energy filled the magic steel transformed by the runes, causing the cold sword body to begin to twist and expand. Although the stable structure had been completely destroyed, it was still a little short of the fire and did not really explode. It was as if something was forcibly suppressing the collapse of the magic steel. Soon, Lester looked at the bloodstone crown that was overflowing with rune energy. Human. The dark red lightning-shaped energy from the runes formed a shield around the Rat King's body, and the next moment it exploded violently, repelling Lester. Pulling out the bloodstone weapon inserted in his waist, letting the blood spill on the ground, the Rat King grasped the human's small weapon somewhat unfamiliarly and shook it violently. The bloodstone crown shone brightly, and the violent rune energy instantly expelled the overflowing ice magic element. The cold air dissipated, and the broken magic steel flame-shaped sword gradually healed in the hands of the Rat King. Dark red chain lightning lingered around the blade of the flame-shaped sword. The tyrannical power easily tore the air, and the power was incomparable to that in Lester's hands. At this moment, there were no living creatures or corpses in the venue except for the two, and the Rat King could not continue to recover from his injuries by absorbing flesh and soul. However, with the weapon in hand, the Rat King no longer cared about this. The death of mankind has come. This was the result that was destined from the beginning. You actually wanted to win the battle with the bloodstone weapon generated by the Holy Stone. It's really stupid. Taking a step, the Rat King clumsily swung a sword at the man, forcing the man who picked up the square shield again to support the cracked square shield with both hands. The violent and sharp rune power directly shattered the broken shield and slammed it hard on the plate armor on Lester's chest, causing the man to spit out a large mouthful of blood. The despairing feeling of weakness once again surrounded his limbs. The plate armor was torn, and Lester rolled out. He walked slowly to the man, absorbing the life breath from the man. The bleeding on his lower back had stopped, and the bloodstone Rat King raised the flame-shaped sword with a grim smile on his face. King of mankind, you are unwilling to succumb to the Holy Stone, and unwilling to kneel down. So what? Without power, there is only one way to die. If I kneel down, I will live, but if you stand, you will die. Tell me, King of mankind, what is the use of your pride? As soon as the words fell, the Rat King slashed down with a sword. Thanks to the reader, Left Bangrain, for the reward and monthly ticket support. Chapter 154 When Rune Calls You Daddy. No wonder the big rat is willing to show off the source of his power with pride. From the beginning, in his eyes, I was doomed to die. On the lakeside of the Soul Lake, the somewhat illusory Lester stood naked in his own spiritual world, gazing at the sparkling calm lake under the starry sky. The man smiled self-deprecatingly. He didn't know who he was talking to. Perhaps he was just telling his last words, or perhaps he was talking to himself, calling on the runes in his body that he had never met, looking for the last ray of hope. After all, only runes can fight against runes. The funny thing is that, after going around in circles, Perhaps Rose had already known about the fact that he had the world rune, Meredith knew it, and even the big rat he had just met knew it, but he was the only one who just knew it. Unfortunately, everything was too late. In this unavoidable battle, I have done my best, using the suppressed power of the Blood Knight magic steel equipment to fight against the runestone was destined to end like this from the beginning, but I had no choice, because without the Blood Knight, I would die faster. Its target from the beginning was me. I used the power of mortal to fight against the world power of the rune continent. Failure was inevitable. The moment I realized that the crown was a runestone, I knew that I had no chance of winning. The man lowered his head. The lake should have reflected his face, but this was not a real lake after all, so there would naturally be no human image. There was nothing under the lake, and he knew it better than anyone. This place should have been nothingness. He created everything. At this moment, he would return to nothingness and the nothingness. Without the body that carried the spirit would inevitably be annihilated. At this moment, here, he would only live a few more minutes. Naturally, there would be no response. The man took a step and slowly stepped into the lake. Pride prompted the man to let his spirit die before his body. As for whether the magic steel plate armor, which has condensed the ice element and is already fully loaded, can blow up the Rat King, it is no longer within his consideration. Maybe it will not explode at all, just like his sword, and it will be easily controlled by the Rat King. I accept my failure completely. As for whether there is a rune in my body, it has never come out. You are right, Big Rat. The winner is the king, and the loser is the bandit. There is nothing to say. Going deeper and deeper, the lake water submerged the man's chest, neck, and chin until it was completely submerged. Closing his eyes, the man savored the approaching suffocation and waited for death calmly. In the past, he always enjoyed this feeling because it made him feel that he was still alive. Dat. The water pressure became stronger and stronger, and his body became heavier and heavier. The man himself did not know that the lake of his soul had already been so deep. Dat. His body sank rapidly with the waves and undercurrents, as if there was no end. Dat. The voice was looming, but it was not an illusion. There was a voice calling his father. The man suddenly opened his eyes and scanned the dark environment blankly. His sight finally stopped at the bottom. Deeper at the bottom of the lake, there was a group of green light, full of the lively breath of life. However, being alone in the darkness, he felt a little lonely. Some things, when you think they don't exist, you really can't see them. Dat. The body continued to sink, and the pure voice of a baby in his ears became clearer and clearer. The man could clearly sense the emotional changes in the voice. The owner of the voice became more joyful and intimate, but the gender was still unrecognizable, or there was no gender at all. After the body reached a certain limit, the pressure of the spiritual lake began to increase suddenly. The man knew that he didn't have much time, and the unexpected and reasonable variables were not far away. Although it was too late, doing nothing when there was a slight possibility was never Lester's life creed. With a sigh, squeezing the last bit of oxygen in his lungs, the man who regained his fighting spirit turned half a circle and began to swim to a deeper depth. 10 meters, 5 meters, 3 meters, 1 meter. The man stretched out his hand. Gilulu. Gilulu. As the resistance became greater and greater, when the man was only half a meter away from the green light ball at the bottom of the lake, a series of bubbles of drowning appeared at the corners of his mouth. His body lost the last bit of strength and his consciousness gradually faded. Dat. The clearer calling voice lingered in his ears. The familiar tone and timbre reminded the man of a memory that he didn't want to remember in this life. The corners of the man's mouth became more bitter. In fact, I also think of you as a dad. Promise me that you won't be a eunuch in the next life, and be nice to the girls who like you. So you are here, Elena. You have never left me. After all, he still remembered the name he didn't want to remember, but unfortunately his body lost control and began to float up, getting farther and farther away from the green light ball. Dat. I call Elena. The childish voice echoed in the dark lake bottom, and the motionless green light ball seemed to have found its home. It turned into a stream of light, to follow the direction of the man's floating, and merged into the man's spiritual body. Elena, finally, found my father. Boom. Before the flame-shaped sword could strike, the expanded Blood Knight's armor suddenly exploded, and the rune power of the mutated ice element mercilessly froze everything in the crypt in a circular shockwave, completely freezing the underground world. Keeping the posture of slashing down, the Bloodstone Rat King closest to Lester was condensed into a hideous ice sculpture. Only his eyeballs could move a few times, and the Rat King looked at a loss. He was almost able to kill the enemy and gained the approval of the Holy Stone. Why did it suddenly become like this? In the eyes of the Rat King, the most peculiar thing was that after the enemy's armor exploded, the human body did not fall apart, but was wrapped in a thin layer of transparent ice shell, like an ice cocoon, with a green light slowly emerging and flowing from the man's smooth and beautiful body, and his hair gradually dyed into a dazzling silver white in the mutation, and the damaged body began to heal. This kind of power that is too magical and powerful is just like the bloodstone that he serves. Could it be that this human has obtained the recognition of another holy stone through prayer? Thinking of this, the Rat King couldn't help but get anxious and began to communicate with the holy stone on the bloodstone crown with his mind. Master, I beg you to give me more power to break the ice. You disappoint me so much. When the Holy Stone cut off the connection with him, the Rat King was horrified to find that the Holy Stone turned into a pool of flashing red liquid and began to flow down from the horns and seep into his scalp. Then there was a heart-wrenching pain. In the struggle, the ice that froze his body began to crack. Scarlet obscure runes gradually appeared all over the body surface, and the irresistible terrible turbulence washed down. The Rat King's consciousness was like a plastic toy thrown into a crusher. It took less than a second for the world rune to swallow and annihilate it, and his tall body completely became a container for the rune. Destruction. The Scholard rune power exploded instantly, completely shattering the ice layer. The Rat King regained his freedom, but his pupils completely turned into two special symbols flashing dark red light. This symbol symbolizes disgust for life and approval of tyranny. The flame-shaped sword in his hand gradually melted and was quickly absorbed by the Rat King's body. Soon, layers of dark red metal armor appeared on the vulnerable parts of the body. Taking 2 steps in front of the man, the Rat King raised his palm and smashed it hard. The tyrannical rune power shattered the ice shell, and the Rat King pinched the man's neck and twisted it hard. With a click, Lester's neck was broken, and then the head and body were completely separated, and the body was separated. The book is finished, the flowers are scattered smoothly, the money for the gift is given, and you are waiting for the feast. Chapter 155. The killer's life is simple and unpretentious. In a state in the south of America, in the bustling downtown, in a private safe house that even the organization does not know about, in the explosion-proof chamber on the back wall, there are more than a dozen well-maintained custom-made modified firearms mounted on the steel frame of the explosion-proof wall. Special bullet boxes and explosion-proof boxes containing high-energy explosives are located under the long guns and short guns. Special seed bullets and high-energy bombs are safely sealed in several boxes with electronic codes. A single positioning bullet with tracking function is enough to consume all the savings of an ordinary family for a week. In addition, there are high explosive bombs, poison bombs and electromagnetic pulse bombs. As for the more expensive biochemical bullets, the special manufacturing technology is only in the hands of the organization, so they can only be specially customized from the organization. The priceless biochemical bullets use the strong acid and highly toxicity developed by the organization as the core technology. They can dissolve and corrode most carbon-based life and organisms in a few seconds, turning living people into charcoal. They are the best weapons for dealing with mutants and biochemical warriors. In the constant temperature refrigerator placed against the wall, 2 vacuum medical boxes lie quietly. 8 cans of nanomedical spray from Top Biotechnology were placed in 2 medical boxes in 2 groups. The medical spray can quickly promote cell regeneration and can bring the dead back to life at critical moments. High-end core biotechnology allows the nanomedical robot in the spray to use its own special substances to repair the injured person's damaged body within 1 minute, quickly stop bleeding, heal broken bones, repair nerves, muscles, and blood vessels, and quickly heal wounds and recover from injuries. The precious low wooden table was carved with solemn patterns. On the wooden table, more than a dozen matte-finished cold weapons were neatly stacked. Several deadly biological and chemical venoms were placed in an explosion-proof glass box and loaded in finger-sized sealed bottles, waiting for the owner to take his life with them. More than a dozen high-end bulletproof vests in various styles are hung on the hangers in the closet. Most of them are exquisite suit linings, and a few are ordinary casual wear. There are more than a dozen women's clothes mixed in the men's clothes. The special composite bulletproof fiber is enough to withstand the kinetic energy transmitted by the parabellum pistol bullet shot vertically within 10 meters, and resist the 7.62mm rifle bullet at 100 meters, preventing the body from being penetrated by bullets. Several remote sensing infrared bombs with tricky angles, and not yet activated, are installed at the door of the secret room, waiting for the invasion of uninvited guests, providing enough time for the owner to evacuate from the secret passage. Once the bomb explodes, all the explosives in the secret room will be perfectly detonated, erasing all traces that should not exist. The special satellite computer used to receive tasks and send and receive various encrypted information is sitting quietly on the coffee table. In the absence of the male owner, the computer that cannot be measured by value seems a little lonely. In the normal room outside the secret room, 2 top configured computers are hung on the ceiling by telescopic racks, and 2 gamers with different expressions are sitting side by side on comfortable ergonomic chairs. The calm and composed man was a shooter, and the gnashing-teethed girl was a supporter, controlling a purple-skinned character with a horn. As the green light flashed, he reduced his own health and continued to add blood to the man he was supporting. He was a model of self-sacrifice. When the team battle started, his teammates died one after another, providing the best output position for the despicable script man on his side. If it wasn't for the sake of gaining points, who would be willing to lick the script dog's stinky feet? The man walked A several times to avoid the big toad's tongue, and the last hero of the red side also fell. The 2 super soldiers pushed straight into the Fang Tower, tearing off the last fig leaf. With a shocking 5-kill voice coming from the speaker, the man controlling the hero quickly clicked on the opposite crystal base with some boredom and released the mouse. Under the situation of global mute, the chat box in the lower left corner of the team began to flash various words of praise. After exiting the game, it turned into a troll who kindly asked about the safety of the script cheater's mother. At the same time, the greetings in the chat box had not disappeared, and the name of the applicant who had just been greeted was posted on the friend interface, which looked extremely realistic. Knowing that the gender information of the diamond account he bought was female, the man did not mind the trouble and rejected them one by one with the mouse, which made many players sad. Whether it is a man or a woman, it is always very fun to play with the script master. Naturally, they will not care about these details. For men, as long as there are no teammates who are too idiotic, this is just a game that can end the battle in 23 minutes. Since there is no value, there is no need to continue playing. Such a game is meaningless. It is impossible to exercise the speed of nerve reaction as you said in the game. In my opinion, playing this is a complete waste of time. Recalling the extremely slow skill trajectory and skill pre-swing in the game, the man seemed to understand why someone on the opposite side called him a script dog. The toad on the opposite side seemed to have never licked the ass of his female hero. Hearing the man say this, the girl put down the red fat otaku happy water, rolled her eyes, and slumped in the comfortable chair, spreading her legs in an M shape in front of the man in an extremely indecent manner, making the white Winnie the Pooh glare at the man without any intention of shying away. Which normal person would twist his butt into a knot like you and keep huddled in the tower like a wretched person? Isn't the most important thing to win by surviving? If you can accomplish your goal, why would you rather die than live? Let's not talk about this. It's a rare vacation, and we can't just play games all the time. Elena, let's go out for a walk. Don't you want a pink silent custom pistol? I'll take you to Gryorov's firearms modification factory. He said that there just happened to be a batch of new materials from the laboratory, and it would be just right to get you a new weapon. No, I'm usually running around the world on missions, and you won't let me play a game when I'm free. What's the matter? Don't killers have the right to play games? If I can't play games, I'd rather not be a killer. Staring at the fiery girl who was communicating with him in beautiful Chinese, the man noticed the uneasiness in the girl's heart. After all, the girl still cared about his attitude, and if he insisted on leaving, The girl would never object. I'm of Chinese and Russian descent, and Alina is of Chinese and English descent. Speaking of which, it seems that the girl has not been too afraid of me since the first time they met. Perhaps it is because they have the same blood. Rather than being afraid, it is better to say that it is a dominant relationship between father and daughter. Considering the hard work the girl puts in during her usual training, the man gently touches the head of the grinning girl, as if he is comforting a manic puppy. It's okay to play games with you, but you have to agree to one condition of mine. The girl was happy in her heart, but her face remained calm, and she slapped the man's hand away. You say, I'm a support, and you're a shooter. If you die once, you will have to train for an extra hour tomorrow. If you fail to complete the training, you can't continue to play games. How about it? You are a devil. The girl shrank her shoulders in fear, and her exaggerated movements were obviously not a good person. She quickly raised her fist and nodded confidently. It's a deal? The man smiled and pushed his fist towards the girl, bumping it lightly. It's a deal. I just tried my best to keep you alive. You, as a support, can't let me die on purpose? After thinking for a while, the man nodded with a smile and chose the big toad that could eat his companions. For the girl, looking at the big-mouthed toad in the support position, she realized that her nightmare had begun. Ah, how could you do this? The man locked the hero with a normal expression and welded the car door completely shut. If it can't be intentional, then it can be done accidentally, right, Alina? So you turned into a world rune. He had an epiphany in his heart. Although he still had many questions, he felt a chill that froze his heart. After rubbing his eyes, Lester opened his eyes and sat up quickly. Looking blankly at the completely frozen crypt, chaotic memories came to his mind, making Lester a little confused about what was going on. Dead. Who killed him? The naked man quickly stood up, came to the red ice slag that was broken into pieces, and picked up the crystal crown that was missing the rune. There is no doubt that the red shattered ice on the ground is the cuckolded rat that just crushed him. Where did the world rune go? After observing the closed battlefield with a pale blue ice wall, Lester rejected the speculation that someone had invaded and taken away the rune. In this closed space, there was only the Rat King and himself. The Rat King had died into a pile of ice debris, and he couldn't find the world rune embedded in the crown, so it could only be on himself. After confirming that there was no danger around, Lester decided to enter the Lake of the Soul first to find out what he had experienced and what happened to Alina. With his eyes closed, Lester was looking for the feeling of meditation, but unfortunately, 5 minutes later, the man did not enter the Lake of the Soul. Opening his eyes and staring at the crypt that had become an ice cave, Lester stood up and walked towards the deeper part of the crypt, putting his hand in front of the thick ice wall, feeling the different ice element from before. If the ice element he felt before was a pool of stagnant water, the mutated ice element at this moment has a bit more violent vitality and is extremely aggressive. Fortunately, his elemental affinity is still there, and these active ice element will not hurt him. Just as Lester was about to use the magic circle of shaping magic to extract the ice element, something unexpected happened. Sensing the man's magic fluctuations, the several meter thick ice wall suddenly melted automatically, leaving enough space for Lester to pass through. Instead of advancing, Lester took the 4 crystal crowns that might become magic items in his hand. He observed carefully for a long time before walking in. Behind the man, the melted magic ice wall quickly evaporated, turned into the purest element, and dissipated in the air. If you have a choice, do you want the things in the secret room or the things outside the secret room? Let me make it clear first, I choose one, and you can't snatch it from me. _carrot. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 156 Final Finishing Touches. Morris and his party came to the octagonal altar and were deeply shocked by the ingenious craftsmanship in the ruins. Even though the holy blood transformed from the world rune had long been sucked dry by the cunning rats, the altar was still shrouded in a thick and lingering bloody smell. Some crazy red-skinned demon rats wanted to get close to the crowd, but were easily killed by the crowd. As for those rats, who had completely lost their courage in fear, they fled into the rat holes that only they knew about. The rats scattered and disappeared into the darkness. Although they would face other cruel enemies in the deeper depths led by General Dang Dang, they had no way to deal with them. Everyone, explore carefully and be careful not to go too far to avoid being attacked by rats. Hector, you still follow the old rules. In the absence of Lester, Morris took over the command naturally, and the others did not disobey, and then scattered, and began to explore in groups of 3 or 5. Hulu hulu, the snoring flower rats leapt in the rune energy converter, unaware of the upcoming humans, just like he didn't believe that the Rat King with the power of the Holy Stone would fail. In his opinion, as long as he slept and waited for the end of this war, he could continue to live a lazy life, which was naturally very comfortable. Noddles made a silent gesture to the others, popped out the short spikes on his wrist, and touched the round grey metal. Soon, the 4 warriors surrounded the strange relic device that was snoring. Nodding to his companions, Noddles opened the cover of the mechanical device. In the residual light of the torch, a big-headed white rat was sleeping soundly with its big teeth exposed. The 3 red hairs on its head hung down funny, looking harmless. Stopping Alice, who wanted to shoot the white rat to death, Noddles reached out and patted the white rat's face. HMM. The white rat turned over and continued to sleep. Looking at the silly black and white T-shaped rat, Alice temporarily put away her killing intent and thought of further exploring this unique rat. To be able to sleep so soundly in the battle for the survival of the race, either he is really not afraid of death, or he is confident that he will not die. With the consent of Noddles, Alice poked the white rat's belly with the butt of the gun, causing the white rat to scratch involuntarily. As if it had sensed something was wrong, the rat opened its blank eyes, which widened instantly, with a look of horror. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Stretching its limbs and raising its hands high, the rat opened its mouth wide, looking at the 4 humans with malicious faces in horror. With the door wide open, Alice put the tip of the gun against the rat's soft belly, looking indifferently at the alien creature that raised its hands to surrender. Don't kill me. I'm a rat traitor. Don't kill me. I'm willing to serve humans. I know how to use these relic machines. Don't kill me. The 4 looked at each other, and Alice put away their weapons. You can speak Narxan too? The flower rat nodded like a chick pecking at rice, and raised his hands. I'm the smartest one among the ratmen. I learned the language from the high priest, and the high priest learned the language from a human. The human's name is Jared. After the interrogation, the human was kept in the sacrificial chamber by the Rat King. I haven't seen him since then. I guess he was eaten by the Rat Queen. Come out, we won't kill you for now, but you should know what to do. Noddle smiled and took the flower rat's hand and pulled the rat out. In the rat's grateful eyes, the Nightblade killer ejected the short thorn and pressed it against the rat's ear. Little guy, please tell me the situation here. If you dare to tell a lie, I will take away part of your body until you have nothing. Remember, I can tell whether you are lying or not, so don't try to test my patience. Morris stayed outside the stone door deep in the altar, stroking the 4 small holes connected by rings on the closed stone door, and couldn't help but recall the 4 crystal crowns on the Rat King's head. That crown is the key to the door, but I don't know what's behind the stone door. Just as he was about to turn around and leave, the stone door suddenly opened, and a sneaky one-horned rat with blood on the corner of its mouth poked its head out and made a sneaky eye contact with Morris. For a moment, Morris had the illusion that the rat in front of him was actually a human, because when he was still in Noel Village, he often saw such men going in and out of a widow's house. Wait, no way. The Rat King was defeated. Recalling the terrifying 2-horned Rat King, Morris instinctively handed out the magic steel spear in his hand and pierced the one-horned rat's neck without hesitation. Haha. Haha. It fell to the ground with a plop. Morris shot the one-horned rat a few more times in the heart and body. After confirming that the one-horned rat was dead, he jumped directly into the stone door. In the stone room covered with rat hair, there was a big bed made of mushroom wood. On the bed, there was only a beautiful big white rat that was 5 meters in size and had just died. The strong smell of blood mixed with some strange smells lingered. A long pipe made of mountain copper extended from the top, and I don't know what it was used for. After taking a few glances at the filth behind the mother rat, Morris, who had figured out everything, pushed open the stone door completely, kicked the corpse of the unicorn rat hard, and threw the corpse out. The man looked contemptuous. If he guessed correctly, the unicorn bastard should have touched the wife of another rat, and killed the rat to silence her. The big rat was so pitiful. The exhausted Margaret stood in the front with a sword, watching the rat man withdraw. Behind the woman were hundreds of wounded people with varying degrees of severity, and everyone's face was covered with deep fatigue. Even Margaret, who had been through many battles, was a little out of breath when faced with the thick bloody smell that was enough to choke her breathing. There were tens of thousands of ratmen who died nearby. Fortunately, the other two passages dug by the ratmen were blocked in time by the magician and expelled with magic. Otherwise, if the three holes were opened and attacked at the same time, there would probably be no living people here. At this moment, the ratmen retreated, which meant that everyone had a chance to breathe and rest. Margaret believed that those cowardly and crazy ratmen would soon come back. Fortunately, the ratmen did not seem to be fully equipped with qualified magic steel equipment, otherwise this battle would be even more difficult to fight. Cheer up. Believe in Lord Lester. We will definitely get out alive. Encouraging her subordinates, Margaret walked a few steps outside, and after leaving the soldier's sight, she leaned against the flesh and blood wall, looking weak and exhausted. She believed in that man, just as she believed in herself, and would become his most loyal sword. Along the way, he stripped off a piece of clothing from a dead blackguard, and put it on. Lester, no longer naked, walked in the darkness, heading towards the unknown front. Unlike before, although there was no magical lighting, and no fire to dispel the darkness, the magical world was filled with colorful elemental lines, outlining the elemental essence of the material world, allowing him to see the road in the direction clearly. The body seemed to have opened a door that he had never touched before. Lester immersed himself in an unknown world, feeling abundant energy and strength. Elena. A faint sigh came from the darkness. Can you come back? The third volume ended successfully. The heroine appeared successfully. Remember, this is a story with a single female protagonist, and the protagonist has only one female protagonist, Doghead. Chapter 157 The Sinful Son of the Blood Amber Courtyard. After completely defeating the mutated rats in the underground world, the Emerald Lord naturally took over the underground ruins occupied by the red-skinned demon rats. A lot of mountain copper ore was found in the mountain copper conversion room, and the harvest was not small. After the 3 trials of Alice and others, Lester, who came to the depths of the altar, interrogated the flowery rat again, and finally understood the sanctification ritual and bloodstone transformation ritual that the Rat King deliberately concealed in the dialogue. However, Lester had to give up temporarily because he did not have the whereabouts of the ritual key bloodstone. After thinking about it, the Lord decided to let the shrewd and capable rat traitor serve as the chief researcher of the underground ruins. In the words of the flowery rat himself, he had memorized all the contents of the murals before the stupid rats destroyed them. As long as he was given enough time and manpower, he would soon be able to figure out the principles of the things in the ruins workshop, especially the spell energy converter he mentioned. Perhaps there was a component of bragging to save his life. Lester still let the flowery rat, a seemingly smart local rat, continue to stay underground to carry out his research. In order to take care of the flowery rat's life, Lester also specially dispatched the Nightblade killer Deedist as the rat's guardian, to prevent the rat from encountering danger or slacking off. Deadist's fist should be able to stop this, and make the rats who like to slack off happy. In this sudden all-out war, 2 of the 3 important bunkers fell, and the rest of the simple strongholds were wiped out, including the team that directly attacked the Ragtide. A total of more than 300 people died in this surprise attack. The Emerald Territory was seriously injured and lost half of its soldiers. Although the battle won the final victory, no one could be happy. Scars need time to heal, and Lester has no good way. All he can do is to arrange enough pensions for the families of the dead and plan to build a eternal star monument to commemorate great warriors and immortal heroes in the core of the Emerald Territory's military camp. After recruiting scholars who have studied the star tracks of the Valoran continent, at the location of the Eternal Star Monument, the Immortal Temple that records heroic deeds and outstanding achievements will be built in the future. Perhaps this will take decades or hundreds of years, but it will never stop. The premise is that the Lord can have an heir and pass on the Emerald Territory. In the inner city of Emerald Territory, a large independent building that took more than 4 years to build was isolated from the hustle and bustle of the city by a high wall. It was in a courtyard called Blood Amber by those in the know. Lester stood on the top floor of the court tower, looking down expressionlessly. With his back to the sun, the man cast a large shadow. The scene in front of him suddenly overlapped with the scene in his previous life where the organization trained killers from a young age. Lester's eyes were deep, and his sight was fixed on a group of innocent people who should have died long ago. Dozens of 4 or 5-year-old sons of sin wearing only simple cotton clothes and cloth shoes were struggling to run around the sandy playground. Behind the children, a vicious punishment officer holding a rattan whip was mercilessly whipping the laggards. Even if they were beaten to the ground, the children did not dare to cry, but could only get up and continue running with a stiff face and gritted teeth. Falling behind, resisting, and failing to complete the training goals all meant no food. No food meant one step closer to death. All the children believed that in the Blood Amber orphanage, the only fate for losers was death, so they had to struggle hard and try to complete the training. The children of sin were orphans with mothers because their father was a despised robber. They understood a long time ago why their mother hated them, why they were different from other children, and could not live with their mother. Brother Lester. The personal guard standing behind the man was GC. Even though she had been trained by Margaret for many years and became a qualified blackguard, she also had exquisite swordsmanship and good combat power, but she still had special feelings for the children and the kind barbarian sister. The scene before her reminded her of her and her sister's past fate. If she hadn't met the man who saved her, how miserable her future life would be. I'm afraid it would be unimaginable, and these children were much younger than she and her sister were at the time. You feel sorry for them? Seeing a cute little girl accidentally fall to the ground, the female disciplinary officer lifted up the little girl's clothes and whipped her 3 more times on her back covered with whip marks. The little girl neither cried nor made a fuss, but silently got up after being whipped. After fixing her clothes, she continued to run at the end of the team with a determined look on her face. They are really too young. Is it too cruel? At least wait until their bodies are more mature. This is already the best ending for them. The disciplinary officer I selected will also grasp the scale and will not really hurt their bodies unless they are really stubborn. Such idiots can't survive if they leave here. It's better for them to die. It can also be regarded as an explanation to their mother. Lester took his eyes away from the son of sin, and his voice was very calm. Although most of the headless bandits themselves have poor genes and looks, the bandits still have good eyes for women. Many of the offspring of these headless bandits who have ravaged innocent women have good looks. Of course, no matter where they are, there are always deformed species with positive and negative results. Unfortunately, such children can't wait for themselves to mediate the mother-child feud and are drowned in the feces and urine pit by their biological mothers. For the offspring of the bandits who didn't die here, no one dares to guarantee whether their mothers considered the problem of pleasing to the eye when they were preparing to kill. What's more outrageous is that there are even many victimized women who hate the group of evil people on the surface, but secretly love the bandit and his children because of the influence of Stockholm. But as a member of the victim group, they dare not show it. Men are also happy with this, and naturally they will not expose the little thoughts of these women. This is the agreement I made with their mother, which must not be broken. Moreover, GC, only 4 years have passed since that day, and the hatred is far from being forgotten. This result now is much better than being thrown to death when they were born. At least suffering a little here can allow them to learn a lot of skills. They will become the future reserve talents and reserve soldiers of the Emerald Army. This is also another way for them to atone for their sinful father. In the future, this place will continue to expand and accommodate more war orphans. A new volume begins, and the male protagonist's Wizard Academy life is about to begin. There are many details and foreshadowing settings. Try not to skip chapters, otherwise don't blame me if you are confused later. This book is indeed slow to heat up. For me, this book is just beginning. When it reaches about 1 million words, if I can get the minimum living allowance within 3 months, I will inevitably have to write 3 or 4 million words by then. I feel that the more I write, the more I feel. Book friends who have read this can also talk about their feelings about reading, whether there is any progress in writing and plot arrangement, what are the defects, etc. As long as it is not groundless nonsense and personal attacks that provoke war, I will read it. Chapter 158 The Sudden Arrival of the Rhinelanders. Looking down at the little girl, who was carefully observing him, Lester continued calmly. After 100 years, when the Imperial War Academy I envisioned is built here, it will become a real place for elite troops to receive blood transfusions and a cradle for generals. Believe me, in the future, even if we don't conquer other areas, Naxos will not lack orphans. There will never be a lack of wars in this world. After the little girl ran another lap, she secretly looked up again, only to find that the Lord wearing a scary mask had left the tower, and she couldn't help but feel more expectant. No matter what time, the Lord would not let her down. As long as he disappeared from the tower, he would soon appear in front of her. Little trash. You better not stop. The rough and scary voice of the female punishment officer continued to surround her ears, and the little girl had to prioritize her energy on the training task in front of her. After half an hour, the training stopped. The little girl panted expectantly, sat on the sandy ground, and looked in the direction of the fence door. Sure enough, the Lord, who was as respectable as her father, came in again with delicious food. Children, never stop your pace. If you feel tired, you can take a break, but you must not be lazy. If you feel pain, you can cry when no one is around, but you must not seek mercy through sadness, because that is the most useless thing. You can only rely on yourself. Only by relying on yourself can you pay for the sins brought by your bandit father, and make up for the pain your mother has suffered. Forget your mother, just like they forget you, and become strong. I will always watch you. Holding the apple brought by the Lord in her hand, the little girl did not dislike the sand on her hands, but just ate it silently. Silently watching the Lord leave again, and with new expectations in her heart, she devoted herself to the hard training. It would be great if the Lord was my father. On the west coast of Dalmatia, dozens of medium and large ships were docked at the port of Iscasia. Animalscan warriors holding spears and blowguns looked vigilantly at the foreign soldiers waiting on the coast. Kraken and 5 other steel swordsmen stood guard beside Bunelis, watching the foreigner who came from the ocean with caution. The foreigner had dark brown skin, thick lips, and strange indigo paint on his face. He looked very strong. We are immigrants from the Western continent. We are not hostile here. Because of natural disasters and wars, we had to abandon our original land and leave our homeland in order to find a new land to build our home. We followed the ocean current to the eastern continent. The leader of the foreigners was hunched over, but his eyes were very shrewd. My name is Abdo, and I'm from the western continent of Liines. If you are willing to accept us, my people and I can become citizens of your Dalmatia. Bunelis smiled and refused the request of the foreigner Abdo. I still need to discuss your request with the elders. Not surprised that he was rejected, the elderly Abdo calmly ordered his men to deliver the gifts from the western continent. Powerful country of the East Continent, this is a little gift from us, the Liensi people. Please accept it. We will wait for your final decision on the ship. Melite, green jade, red agate, purple gemstone, and top grade magic materials blood spinel and pink zircon. Haha, friends from the West Continent, what a generous gift. Putting down the colorful stones that drove the woman and the mage crazy, Jarvan Dark calmly closed the small gift box from his foreign friend, and turned to look at his staff. Bunelis, what do you think about this matter? Should we let them in? Lord Jarvan, I think this matter needs to be carefully considered. Jarvan slowly expressed his thoughts. There is no doubt that the Liensi people are a huge ethnic group. Judging from their warships and cargo ships, there are at least 5,000 immigrants this time. We Dalmatia simply cannot digest such a large group. If we leave it alone, once they get together to make trouble, these Liensi people will soon become another disaster for Dalmatia. Jarvan Dark raised his eyebrows. Let's not talk about whether those foreigners dressed in primitive clothes are hardworking and capable. Excuse me, their skin color is not suitable for integration and intermarriage with us. I have learned that the descendants of the Lineland people will all be black children. Black and dark brown are like source to the land of Demacia. The pure white forbidden magic stone should not be tainted like this. Demacia should be wholly white and should not turn black. Then how do you think we should deal with them? Expel them, along with this box of gems and their ivory crafts. Bunalis said seriously. Demacia has never needed such flashy and beautiful things. The hard forbidden magic stone and solemn order are the foundation of the country. I thought that Garvandark would agree with my opinion, but Bunalis saw that the man shook his head. We will accept the things. Bunalis was surprised and couldn't understand why Garvandark made such a decision. But we will not keep the people. They have a more suitable place. Garvandark pointed to the Nokmachi plain on the map and spoke calmly. Demacia and Naxos are too close, so we need a little buffer in between, don't we? After a pause, Garvandark opened the gem box again, picked up a spinel, and rubbed it gently. It would be nice to make a crown with these flashy things. Lord Lester, it has been confirmed that after Demacia was released, a group of foreigners from the western continent who claimed to be the Lines came to the southern mountainous area of the Tranquil Forest. There are about 5,000 of them. They established their homeland in the north of the Silver Mountains, calling themselves the Free State of Linesland, and sent us a precious gift. Their leader Abdo hopes to establish diplomatic relations with us, so that we can recognize their existence, carry out preliminary trade activities, and allow their people to come to the Emerald Territory to trade materials. Because the matter was of great importance, Absol chose to personally report to Lester about the new guests from the west. What attitude should we take towards the Linelanders? Taking the little greedy sinner who was eating pink berries off his lap, Lester walked to the remap map and fixed his sight on the land, sandwiched between the Silver Mountains and the Tranquil Forest. If he remembered correctly, in the original world, there was a country called Lineland to the east of Demacia and the west of Nokmachi. But the problem is that a certain music company that made the game did not set that these Linelanders came from the western continent. It even said that the setting of the western continent on the other side of the planet has not been even started, and even the map has not been made. If they obtain the copyright, they may copy the map of the Warhammer world. By then, it is inevitable that there will be a Khorne versus Darkin, and a Nurgle versus the Titan Protoss. They just delivered it to their door. In addition to establishing diplomatic relations, have they expressed other demands? After thinking for a while, Lester asked in a deep voice. They said they would only build their home in the no man's land, and claimed that they would never offend the interests of Naxos and the Emerald Territory. Their leader Abdo even wanted to agree with us to non-aggression and establish an alliance. After organizing his words and hesitating for a while, Absol carefully expressed his subjective opinion. I don't think those immigrants from the western continent are troublemakers. At least their leaders know where they are. In the previous life, Lineland, which relied on animal husbandry and forestry for a living, seemed to be extremely xenophobic and had a sense of isolation. Although it was black, it was fundamentally different from some black tumors in the previous life that only knew how to erode and expand. Lester knew a little about the aggressiveness of his new neighbors and knew that what Absol said was true. However, even Lester was a little uncomfortable with the sudden appearance of a neighbor who was not well informed. After all, he had long regarded the area east of Greenfang Peak as the territory of Emerald Territory. Now that Demacia had done this, he was unhappy. The key was that he could not find the right time to take action. The missing army of Emerald Territory was resting and reorganizing. It was not a wise choice to send troops to deal with an unknown force with a population of 5,000 at this moment. In the case of vast land and sparse population, many places did not have enough manpower to settle, which led to large tracts of land being idle and becoming unowned land, giving the people of Lineland the opportunity to take root. In the future, there may be similar situations, and there will inevitably be a few more countries on this empty land. In the final analysis, Lester was still very interested in what the unknown western continent was like. Fortunately, he also knew that now was not the time to explore this. Tell me about their precious gifts. A box filled with all kinds of flawless gems, 3 ivory jade boxes, and some strange wood that seems to have magical properties. It seems that they are very thoughtful. Lord Lester, do you want to accept their gifts? Considering that the Lianlan people gave some magic gifts, Lester made a decision. Accept it. The Emerald Territory is not suitable for launching a large-scale war now. I agree to their request for diplomatic relations and trade, but it is impossible to form an alliance. Later, I will send the Nightblade assassin to Lianlan to collect intelligence. It is okay to establish a country, but you must warn them that they are absolutely not allowed to leave the area west of the Quiet Forest. Outside the Quiet Forest, it is the territory of the Emerald Territory, and it must not be violated. Otherwise, the Emerald Territory can only bring them endless war. Chapter 159 Nightmare and Shadow Demon. You actually vomited me into the opposite defense tower. Teacher. Be a human being. Lester, you owe me, do you admit it? Actually, I also regard you as my father. Promise me that you will not be a eunuch in your next life, and be nice to the girls who like you. Darkness. Harvest. Destruction. Blood sacrifice. You don't understand the power of the Holy Stone at all. Human. You are not even qualified to kneel down. Where are you? Why did you betray me? Bang, bang, bang. Please don't kill me. I will give you all the information. Don't. Despicable human. Hey dad. 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 The man with bloodshot eyes suddenly opened his eyes and sat up from the bed panting. The noisy voice lingering in his mind gradually disappeared. Hoo-ha, hoo-ha, hoo-ha. Rubbing his eyes, Jis and Tally sat up with worried faces, holding the man's hands on the left and right. Are you having a nightmare again? It's okay, you guys go back to sleep, just let me calm down. There wasn't much etiquette between an old couple, and Lester didn't bother to get dressed. He rubbed his face, got off the bed, and left the room. Jis and Tally looked at each other, with inextricable sorrow between their brows, but they knew they couldn't do anything, so they could only cover themselves with the quilt and lie down again. The room was silent for a long time before Jis spoke, to break the stagnant atmosphere. Sister, are you going to the Black Rose Academy with Lord Lester now? Hearing the reluctance in her sister's tone, Tally nodded softly, holding her sister's hand and whispering. Now all affairs in the territory are on the right track. Brother Lester has delegated the construction of the arena to Sister Margaret. Sisters Miss Howe and Hina now have more and more courses to learn. The two sisters have grown up and become more mature, so Brother Lester also has time to do things alone. The most important thing is this. Tally put her hand on her sister's flat belly, her face full of shame. We didn't give birth to a child for Brother Lester. This is the most unstable thing for the Emerald Territory. We must find a way to solve it. The Emerald Territory cannot be without an heir. This time I went to the academy to find a way. I believe that Ms. Rose will find a way to help. Staring at her sister's still immature face, GC, who has become a beautiful mature woman, is still a little envious. Perhaps it is the characteristics of a mage, that the traces of time are always less than those of normal people. Then the woman was a little scared. What if 30 years later, her face faded, and she became a wrinkled old woman, and her sister and Brother Lester were still so young? What should she do? Will she be abandoned? Sister. I'm scared. After a pause, Terry hugged her sister gently. Don't be afraid. No matter what, sister will accompany you. Burying her head in Terra's chest, Jess's eyes gradually became moist. She has no talent for magic, not at all. She had no choice from the beginning. The charcoal emitted a dazzling red light. In front of the fireplace on the first floor, Lester lay in a rocking chair and stared at the rising flames calmly, his eyes a little blurred. It has been several months since the rune-alienated red-skinned demon rat was completely defeated. Winter is about to come again. In a blink of an eye, I have lived in the Valoran continent for 7 years. It was not until the battle with the Rat King that I found Elena, sleeping in the depths of the Lake of the Soul, and hidden in the spiritual world by coincidence. For some reason, she has become a strange world rune. Her growing physical strength and extraordinary charm are also due to Elena. Even the result of infertility is probably related to Elena. As for these things, she has no clue until today, because until now, she still can't enter the Lake of the Soul and find Elena. That world is like closed, and has been refusing to enter. Even the second rune fragment from the Rat King is missing. There is no need to think about it. I'm afraid that it has entered my body like Elena. In my current state, if I'm discovered by Riz, I'm afraid that Riz will be happy for a long time, and then he will punch me to death and throw me into his rune scroll. I have instructed Morris to have Night's Edge pay special attention to Riz's movements. Once there is a clear route, it will not be difficult to avoid the big bald man, so there is no need to consider Riz's situation for the time being. The most urgent thing is to figure out my physical condition. Rose said that the library of the Black Rose Academy keeps a lot of secret information collected by the Black Wizards under Modkaiser. There, I may be able to find what I need. Information about the world runes, the reason why I can't have children, ways to prolong my life, and the shaper shifting magic that turns Zyre into a human form. I must go to the Mage Academy once. The chair kept shaking, and the man raised his head, his thoughts getting farther and farther away. The shadow behind the chair was getting longer and shorter, twitching like dancing, which was very strange. The development of the Emerald Territory will not stagnate, but my strength must keep up. Relying solely on external equipment enhancement is not a good solution. I can only protect myself in the mortal realm, and cannot utilize Alina's true power. If I encounter another Rat King, I will still not escape death. At present, magic and rune power are the keys to my growth. Magic is fine. I just need to study step by step in the academy. As for rune power, I need to figure out the specific rules. I must not continue to develop it without a beginning or an end. I must at least understand how to apply the power and the side effects it brings. Where Lester couldn't see, the twisted shadow opened a mouthpit that looked exactly like an organ and tentatively reached towards the man's drooping lower body, looking weird and eager to try. As for whether Rose is LeBlanc, we should be able to get the answer by going to the Black Rose Academy this time. Up to now, I'm still not sure what LeBlanc's purpose is in controlling Naxos and disrupting the entire Runeland, but I think it will not be simple. Preventing Mordekaiser from resurrecting should be just one of them. The twisted mouthpits became longer and longer, gradually approaching the man's calf, slowly gathering strength, as if trying to swallow it into his mouth. The moment he touched it, Lester felt a cold and soft scalp numb and his whole body went limp. Someone had grasped his fatal weakness. The man sat up straight and instinctively grabbed the shadow lying on his calf. The shadow suddenly dissipated and disappeared without a trace the moment he was caught. The cold and slippery feeling also disappeared completely. What the hell is that? Lester stood up from the rocking chair, pulled out the magic steel sword from the wall, and scanned the surroundings, focusing on the black shadow cast on the ground by the reflection of the firelight, but found nothing. The scene just now seemed like an illusion, without any trace left. Did I just feel the air blowing? Is this a lie? Crackle, crackle. The sound of burning wood was particularly clear in the silence. Between the light and dark flames, the room had a weird atmosphere. Staring at the darkness, Lester always felt that there was a pair of greedy and evil eyes staring at him, the cool lower body. Taking a deep breath, the chaste man Lester put the magic steel sword back into the scabbard hanging on the wall, and pulled up a piece of chair cloth to cover the vital parts of his body. The feeling of being spied on finally dissipated. The man breathed a sigh of relief, and an unbelievable guess came to his mind. Isn't that guy the man who should be harming Demacia? Why did he come to me? Guess who the shadow is? Chapter 160 Departure, Black Rose Mage Academy. Kiram's house. Early in the morning, Hina was pulled up by the active mishap. Didn't you say that brother Lester was leaving today? Don't you want to see him off? But it's still early now. With her soft black hair spread out, Hina raised her head, rubbed her blurry eyes, and pointed to the dark window in silence. Sister, isn't it too early for you? Are you so reluctant to leave brother Lester? Why don't you be more intimate with your brother? Hearing this, Mishap, who had a neat golden short hair, curled her lips and loosened her hand holding her sister's arm. I'm not reluctant to leave him. It's up to you. I'll go take a shower first. After Miss Ha left, Hina lay down again and fell asleep in a daze with a lovely smile on her face. Gooey brother Lester, it's Sitchy, don't touch there. In the Lord's mansion, Lester was preparing his luggage with a normal expression. Margaret and Jess were sitting together and talking about daily life, and Taylor was also packing her things. Meredith stood beside the man, watching him tidy up his clothes without saying a word, feeling quite pleasing to the eye. Why is this man so elegant when folding clothes? After tidying up the third dark style custom made wizard dress made by Rose, Lester stopped what he was doing. Speaking of which, if you don't count the ulterior motives of the missions he carried out in his previous life, this is the first time he has been a student sincerely. If you count his age, this time should be considered as going to college. A dark magic university in another world, that is not called Hogwarts. Lord Lester, do you have any questions? Noticing the man's hesitation, Meredith asked. I just suddenly realized that I'm about to become a terrible black wizard's apprentice. I'm afraid that I will scare a lot of stubborn old men with white beards who call themselves white wizards. They will definitely hit my head with staffs as big as their heads. Lester's serious look made Meredith laugh, and the female wizard covered her mouth and chuckled a few times. Yes, Lord Lester, maybe after you come out, you will become a gloomy necromancer, wandering around the cemetery with a sullen face all day long, shouting, "Oh, look, what a beautiful corpse that is. I want to turn it into a skeleton that belongs to me alone." That seems not bad, too. At least when fighting with others, I can command my skeleton to beat them with my bare hands, and I can even pick up the flute and play a song of farewell for the person being beaten. Haha, you are worthy of you. But what song is farewell? By the time Tally came down with her luggage, it was already dawn. There was a knock on the door, and Miss Han in a beige dress and Lady Hina in a purple black dress walked in, bringing with them the refreshing scent of flowers. Brother Lester, I can't bear to leave you. Can you take Hina with you? Hugging the girl in his arms with his left hand, Lester also hugged Miss Ha, who was one step away, with his right hand. During this time, Miss Ha didn't say anything, but buried her head in the man's chest, and like her sister, gently hugged the man's waist. A sister who is honest, but honest is also very cute. Looking down at the beautiful angel sisters, Lester couldn't help but sigh secretly. My wife has grown up at home. She is so big at the age of 11. What will happen in the future? But then again, it was not in vain that he could make the angel sisters fall in love with him wholeheartedly. I also want to take Hina and Miss Ha away, but Hina and Miss Ha are still young. It's too early to go there now. Bending down and kissing the two sisters on the face, Lester let go of the two beautiful girls with completely different styles. Now, learn more about ancient etiquette from teacher Cui Silly. Later, your sister Margaret will supervise you and find some other teachers for you. After you finish all the language and basic courses, I will consider taking you to the Black Rose Academy. Study hard here, okay? Yes. My sister and I will work hard. Nodding vigorously, Zinna kissed Lester's right cheek lightly, waved her fist to cheer herself up, and looked full of energy. Miss Ha hesitated for a moment, glanced at the strange looking women in the scene. Her face instantly turned red, and she resisted the shame and kissed the man's left cheek, whispering, "Lester, come back early. I'll wait for you at home." The carriage, engraved with the military emblem of the Emerald Territory, double-winged sword, drove out of the Emerald Territory and ran towards the Immortal Fortress. Above the sky, a beautiful dragon-blooded creature was quietly adorned in the high clouds, following quietly all the way. Sitting in the shock-absorbing carriage that he designed and improved, carrying the custom-made magic steel rapier, Scarlet Dancer, Lester changed into the school uniform sewn by Rose. It was a close-fitting long dress with black, red and navy blue as the base color, and a white silk inner shirt as the base. This was a special honor as the husband of Ms. Rose and the Lord of the Emerald Territory. Normally, apprentice male mages should wear simple apprentice robes, not such fancy things. Taylor also changed into the unique female apprentice dress of the Black Rose Academy. In the outside world, in addition to the long dress, they must also wear the black robe of the apprentice. Looking at the two people who were about to enter the Black Rose, Meredith suddenly felt a little emotional. The two people in front of him were both his students, but he didn't expect that the day of entering the academy to study would come so soon. As expected of Ms. Rose, the back door she opened for Lord Lester was domineering enough. This time when he returned, even he became an assistant teacher directly and had the right to leave the academy on his own. Since you have become apprentices of the Black Rose Academy, you will know many things. There is plenty of time on the way. I will tell you what you need to pay attention to in the Black Rose Academy. On the road to study, Lester has always adhered to the concept of the master being the teacher. He sat upright and regarded himself as a student, which made Meredith feel a little funny. This arrogant man still has many lovely aspects. The origin of the Black Rose has always been a secret. The public statement in the academy is that in the Dark Age, when the Darkin were rampant, two powerful black magicians co-founded the Black Rose organization. One was the Blood Mage, and the other was the Pale Witch, who is still hiding in the shadows today. Around the two powerful black magicians, a group of students eager to explore forbidden magic formed the Black Rose, which provided the basic conditions for communication for the study and discussion of black magic. Later, the Blood Mage left alone for some reason. In the hands of the Pale Witch, the Black Rose became the follower and weapon of the tyrant Uzel, and together with other black magicians, developed and created taboo knowledge and spells for the tyrant. In order to reward the Black Rose and the Pale Witch for their contributions, the tyrant deliberately established the Black Rose Mage Academy deep underground after the Immortal Fortress was built, which was specially used as a treasure house for the Black Rose to inherit and exchange black magic knowledge. With the support of the tyrant, many black magicians under his command also chose to join the Black Rose, which undoubtedly became an opportunity for the Black Rose to grow stronger. Chapter 161, The Rules and Regulations of the Mage Academy. Without going into detail about more decades, Meredith changed the subject. In the Black Rose Mage Academy, the three most powerful organizations are the Thorn Monitor, the Black Rose Law Enforcement Corps, and the Black Rose Magic Tutor Corps. These three organizations were established by the Pale Lady and are completely controlled by her. They jointly maintain the order of the Mage Academy and formulate the rules of the underground world of the Immortal Fortress. The Thorn Monitor is a powerful black mage who supervises the tutors. After receiving the secret order from the Pale Lady, he has the powerful power to dismiss, investigate, detain, and even execute the magic tutors. He is a terrifying existence that even the Magic Tutor Corps is quite afraid of. The Black Rose Law Enforcement Corps is responsible for supervising the black mage students under the tutors. If they leak secrets, teach or use forbidden magic privately, steal, fight, kill, etc., these violations of the rules are discovered by the Law Enforcement Corps, and the students are likely to face detention, whipping, or even life imprisonment. The most serious ones will directly become living materials for black magic. The Black Rose Magic Tutor Group is the source of teachers for the Black Rose Academy. After you enter the school, you will actively visit some black magic tutors through a two-way selection, and finally decide on a magic tutor as your personal tutor. Confirm a certain research and learning direction until you make achievements in that direction. Leaving the academy privately during this period is strictly prohibited. In addition to private courses, the academy often holds some black magic public classes and performance classes. The public classes will be held among magic teachers, and anyone can go to listen. The lecturers are generally famous and powerful black magic tutors. Ms. Rose also occasionally gives public classes. You two just went there, try not to miss them. Performance classes are some courses involving magic exchanges, magic assessments, or magic theory research. After completion, you can get credits given by the performance class tutor. Only when the credits of the performance class and the teaching objectives of the private course are met at the same time, the black magic apprentice can be regarded as taking the first step, breaking away from the low-level status, and having the qualifications to leave on your own. Of course, as a formal black magician, the premise of your leaving is that you must accept the task of the Black Rose Mage Academy. After all, the academy trains black magicians, not for free. Regardless of whether the mission is completed or not, the students must return to the academy within the specified time, otherwise they will be regarded as deserters, and will be hunted down by the Black Rose Law Enforcement Corps for life. These are the things that need to be remembered. They are the basic rules of the Black Rose Academy. Never violate them, otherwise the annoying Law Enforcement Corps will tell you what it means to fight to the death. After saying a lot of words in one breath, Meredith felt a little dry in the mouth and couldn't help but moisten her throat with water elemental magic. Tella was still frowning and trying to absorb the huge amount of information that Meredith had instilled, but Lester had already started asking questions. The credits for the performance course should have other uses, right? For trading or hired work or something. The female mage's eyes lit up. She was not surprised that the man could quickly grasp the key points. She was full of appreciation. Yes, credits are the most important thing in the academy. They can be used to trade with other academies or mentors, to exchange for magic items and materials, to exchange for the qualification, to enter the library with the academy, and are also the key to promotion and leaving the Black Rose. The road to promotion is long and tortuous. Starting from the Black Mage Apprentice at the time of enrollment, by constantly completing assessments and tasks, accumulating credits, and gradually promoted to Black Mage, Black Magic Assistant, Black Magic Mentor Assistant, Black Magic Mentor. After becoming a Black Magic Assistant and above, you can also try to join the Law Enforcement Corps through extremely difficult assessments. The Thorn Supervisor needs to have strength and status at least at the level of Mentor Assistant. The assessment can be said to be the most difficult one. Of course, the difficulty of obtaining credits after successfully joining will be greatly reduced. Many people gradually leave the Black Rose after joining the supervisor. If you want to leave a Black Rose freely, the credits must reach a very high standard. If your strength has not yet reached the level of mentor, then you have to complete a difficult task. This kind of task generally means a life or death struggle, and few people choose this. After some calculation, Lester found that, if he could leave the Black Rose Mage Academy through promotion step by step, it would definitely take a long time. According to Meredith, it would take decades for most people to completely leave the Black Rose. You and other Black Rose mages came to the Emerald Territory. Do you think you are completing the performance course? No, it's just a long-term mission outside the academy. Before being assigned to you by Ms. Rose, I had completed the basic learning and became a formal Black Magician. I was qualified to accept the mission and leave the Black Rose Academy. I have been in the Emerald Territory for such a long time, and I probably have accumulated a lot of credits. After I go back this time, I will directly become an assistant teacher and have the qualifications to go deeper into the library. Is that so? Any questions? Tally finally raised her hand and whispered, Sister Meredith, I wonder what Sister Rose's position is in the Black Rose. At least she should be a tutor's assistant, right? Hearing Tally's question, Lester's eyes also showed a curious look. The position that LeBlanc assigned to her clone would not be too low, otherwise she would not have randomly placed herself and Tally in school. After pondering for a moment, Meredith spoke up, thinking that the two people in front of him would understand this sooner or later. As for Ms. Rose, her strength is at the level of a great master of black magic. She has a unique identity and is a benefactor of the Pale Lady. She is currently the sole leader of the Thorn Overseers and has the power of life and death over the Tutor Group and the Law Enforcement Group. She is considered the most powerful woman in the Black Rose Mage Academy, but she doesn't usually take charge of things. Lester, who was considering what color stockings to wear for Rose, Tally, the coachman waved the whip and controlled the carriage to move forward for a long time. The conversation began again in the rear carriage that was soundproofed. Is Sister Rose so powerful? As expected of that woman. Temporarily giving up the idea of tearing off Grandmaster Rose's black stockings, Lester had to consider discussing the probability of death of female mage physique with Rose after class. Rose can't really murder her husband, can she? By the way, Lord Lester. What's wrong? Lester was stunned. Ms. Rose has done a lot of publicity for this enrollment. I'm afraid that many male mages who admire Ms. Rose will have a little hostility towards you. I hope you will be mentally prepared in advance and be ready to face challenges at any time. The man felt a little uneasy. How much is a lot? How much hostility is a little bit? Hesitating for a moment, recalling the crazy worship of the Ms. Rose's Admirers League, Meredith looked at the man carefully, pinched her thumb and index finger with her right hand to leave a gap, and said carefully, to this extent, probably all men want you, Lord Lester, to die in the academy. This article is also known as the domineering female president. My husband is a flirtatious little husband, the Whip Queen's late night special summons, and a Lord Mage. Please love me hard. Chapter 162 My domineering wife falls in love with me. Before the snowflakes began to float in the sky, the carriage drove smoothly into the inner city of the Immortal Bastion. The Narcs and soldiers along the way knelt on one knee with their weapons in hand and saluted respectfully. For the miracle maker of the Emerald Territory, even the most arrogant Narcsans would lower their proud heads and offer worship and obedience to the demon-faced Lord Lester. In Naxos, the double-winged sword of the Emerald Territory is the best pass, and the mask of the demon-faced lord is a synonym of majesty and power. This is a powerful figure who can stand on equal footing with Nadalzenstender. How is Lord Lester? Give my regards to Lord Nadalzenstender. I will definitely take them there. Take care, Lord Lester. After greeting an old acquaintance daughter whom he met by chance, Lester drove the carriage to Blackthorn Rose Street. Taylor. Teacher Meredith. Come with me. I will buy some things for you before you actually enter school. Then, Lord Lester, I will take Taylor away first. Go. Without stopping Meredith from calling Taylor away, Lester came to Rose's mansion alone and pushed open the unlocked door. A flash of magic passed by, and Lester knew that Rose had discovered him. The layout of the first floor has not changed. Looking at the long table and wooden chairs with soft eyes, Lester recalled every bit with Rose and felt that even the air was so warm. No matter what happens in the future, he will never regret meeting Rose as soon as he arrived on this continent. Walking up the stairs skillfully with a relaxed pace to the second floor, the man pushed open the half-hidden door. A woman in a transparent white gauze was sitting on a cushion with her back to the door, reading a book quietly. If the observant man had not seen the woman's white skin begin to turn pink, he would have almost thought that the woman was reading a book attentively, rather than being a white rose eager to bloom. What book are you reading? Lester hugged the woman's slender and soft waist from behind, kissed the woman's cheek lightly, and put his head on the woman's shoulder to read the book together. There was no intention of avoiding the man. The woman's eyebrows were curved, and it was obvious that she was in a very good mood. She responded to the man's cheek with a sweet kiss and whispered softly with a breath like orchid. This is an essay recorded by a black wizard who knows something about runes. I have collected a lot of these books and selected some for you to read. You should be able to use them. My little Rose, why are you so good to me? How do you want me to repay you? Hold me. The man hugged the woman and put her on the bed and slowly took off his armor. When words can no longer convey emotions, actions full of desire have love. This kind of love is the best dry wood to ignite passion, which is more effective than any medicine. The two people who rolled together became crazy and attacked the big bed like a storm, making the solid big bed whimper. As the sky gradually darkened, the longing in their hearts was slightly relieved, and the two people in the sage time finally recovered their normal language function. My teacher Rose, can you tell your student Lester what challenges he will encounter when he enters the academy this time? Counting on her fingers, the female mage smiled and raised her beautiful feet, placed them in the man's hands, and the man began to massage. First, you will face the hostility of hundreds of people of the same sex, because you picked the unique rose and let the rose be stained with your breath. Dead man, just say whether you admit it or not. Although a little speechless, the man was not a coward without a guts, so he would naturally not deny it. Admit it. You are my woman. How can I not admit it? The satisfied woman placed the second foot on the man's lower abdomen, and her fingers swung flexibly. The man took a breath of cold air. Second, whether it is the course or the school rules, you must do well enough, and not let the people of the law enforcement group catch any handles. Although I don't want my man to be beaten by my men, if you really make a mistake, I can't be partial to you and cheat. You must be punished. Before I became your woman, I was still a great magician who controlled the Thorn Monitor. I can't take the lead in making mistakes. At most, when you are locked up in the dungeon, I will wear this dress to see you. You are worthy of being a little rose. You are excellent, and you know to look at your man. The man smiled and attacked with his free hand, gently patting the hand that was playing tricks in front of him. The defeated Rose stopped doing useless things and could only roll her eyes charmingly and breathe faster. Well Turdley, I know you want to quickly enter the library to borrow various materials, but if you follow the routine, it is simply impossible without 10 years of hard work. The qualification review of the library is very strict, so I have thought of a way for you. What way? Become an honorary lecturer of the Black Rose Mage Academy. Organize and preach the complete set of ancient languages in your memory in the form of open classes, and submit the organized materials to the tutor, who will collect them as a collection. This can earn you a lot of credits, so that you can obtain enough consulting qualifications and credits within 5 years, and successfully conquer other review tutors. The exploration of new languages has always been an important research direction of the Black Rose. Your square character language is beautiful and concise enough to be included in the library and become a boutique course. Please rub it gently, it hurts. Are you willing? Lester raised his eyebrows, relaxed his strength and smiled. Of course I'm willing. If I don't take it out, this ancient relic language will only sleep in my memory forever. It's great to let more people understand this language. Seeing the man agreed, Rose narrowed her eyes in satisfaction, enjoying the pleasure from her body. Other things are fine. You just need to find a suitable instructor to study with. The honorary lecturer will be arranged after you become a formal black magician. Before that, you should organize the content yourself. If the public lecture is not effective, I'm afraid you won't be able to get the consent of other instructors. Lectures are a piece of cake. The key is, Rose, can't I study with you? No, I can't. Oh, he know what bad intentions you have. If you study with me, you can't learn anything except the female mage's body shape. And I have a lot of things to do, so I can't always be by your side. Humph. A playboy like you needs to find a serious old lady mage to punish you, a big pervert. In front of the helpless man, the woman's smart eyes turned, and she smiled and spoke again. However, I will add some open classes appropriately. You can come and sit in. If you perform well, I will allow you to bully the poor and helpless teacher a little bit, and block the teacher who has lost the ability to resist in a dark corner. Little devil, you are playing with fire again. Nonsense. It is obviously you, the big bad wolf, who has been clumsy all the time, and you are still restless until now. As they talked, the jealous couple hugged each other again, indistinguishable from each other. Beside the big bed, an illusory black shadow kept squirming, forming a strange shadow eye, staring at the rolling humans, especially focusing on the woman. The black shadow blinked a few times with difficulty and began to try to imitate the body shape and appearance of the woman who was talking, and kept twisting and changing on the floor. The new concept was absorbed by the black shadow, and the black shadow on the floor began to have a graceful shape, but the black shadow without hands, feet and head still looked a little scary, like a big snake. Who's there? Without caring about the foreign object in her body, Rose sat up with a cold look and looked at the floor. There was nothing except the shadow under the candlelight. Is it an illusion? What could be in your room? Where Rose couldn't see, the man touched a black shadow huddled on his left hand and smiled harmlessly. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 163, The Underground World of the Immortal Bastion. Immortal Bastion. Below the fortress at the junction of the inner city and the outer city, the narrow black stone streets are getting lower and lower. Going around and down, you will arrive at the underground city of the Immortal Bastion. As more and more Narxons live in the Immortal Bastion, many people of questionable character have chosen to hide their identities away from the sun and go to the famous underground streets of the Immortal Bastion. According to the height of the horizontal plane from high to low, the underground city of the Immortal Bastion is connected by the Mirror Corridor. It is divided into 5 areas: the Old Noble area, the New Noble area, the Civilian area, the Underground Slum area and the Black Rose Academy. The first 2 areas are guarded by the Narxon guards of the Immortal Bastion, and non-nobles are not allowed to enter. The Civilian area has its own set of prevention systems, but there are still many troublemakers hiding in it, doing petty thefts, but it is still quite measured. Only in the underground slums is it truly an abandoned place. In this chaotic and disordered place, there are no rules except for the bloody blades and blood money in their hands. Countless lawless lunatics hide there, and there are also some remnants of the Dark Ages who have knowledge and technology that are enough to drive people crazy. They hide behind the scenes and control their own little piece of land. The Noble District and the Black Rose Mage Academy are open to exit, but not to entry, and the slums are open to entry, but not to exit. Anyone who breaks in without passing the Black Rose review will be ruthlessly killed. Every once in a while, there are many skilled and courageous strong men or murder fugitives who voluntarily go to the slums, to avoid the limelight or sell stolen goods, which in turn promotes the prosperity and abnormal development of the slums, and also extends the dark forces that belong to the immortal fortress of Naxos. Unfortunately, the only ruler of the underground world is the bottom layer, the Black Rose Mage Academy next to the underground Black Iron River. It is the only forbidden place that even nobles cannot enter. Perhaps for the Black Mages, the powerful people of the various dark forces on the 4th floor are just deliberately reserved experimental subjects. Passing through the exit of the 4th floor of the underground mirror corridor, Lester decided to go to the slums in person if he had the chance. If I remember correctly, Tyrone grew up there and was captured by General Dukekao. No one can leave there easily unless you pay a large enough blood money or get the consent of the Black Rose. As if he knew what the man was thinking, Meredith stopped at the intersection and waved to his fellow mages stationed at the entrance and exit in the distance, and the other party responded politely. Lord Lester, although I don't recommend you go to the dangerous place of the slums alone, if you insist on going, please remember that there are no rules. As long as you are strong enough, killing people on the street is as normal as eating and drinking. In self-defense, you can kill anyone without taking any responsibility, but you still have to be careful of some old monsters that have survived since the Dark Ages. Nodding, Lester retracted his gaze. Let's go. It's not the time to go there yet. Following behind the two people, Tally held her staff tightly with both hands without saying a word, looking a little nervous. Following the mirror corridor to the bottom, the glowing mica and crystal illuminated every inch of the dark land. The ethereal voice of the Black Iron River came from deeper inside. The three people passed through the tall rock circle and walked down the mirror corridor. Seeing the three people coming down, two wizards with black thorns embroidered on the collar of their robes came over. That's the Thorn Watcher. Under normal circumstances, there are more than 2 Thorn Watchers guarding here. In the dark, there are more invisible forces. Lester expressed his understanding of Meredith's explanation. Mercedes, these 2 are the apprentices who are about to enter the school, right? Yes. The mage who spoke can be seen to be a middle-aged man. The male mage took a deep look at Lester, who was dressed gorgeously and had a good appearance, raised his eyebrows, and said lightly, "Are you Lord Lester? Kenneth, you'd better restrain yourself, otherwise you will die without a burial place." The female mage said coldly, and said no more. "Don't worry, Carida, I just want to say hello to the Lord, and take a look at what the Lord looks like." Waving his hand, Kenneth's hooked nose pressed against Lester oppressively, his eyes cold. Staring at the man who intimidates him, Lester was unmoved, with a faint smile on his lips. "Kenneth, you seem to have something to say to me." "Yes, my lord, I have no ill intentions. I just want to tell you that in the world of mages, your noble status is worthless. Please remember this, because there are many people here who want to see you having fun. I hate those who want to see you having fun, so I want to give you a little reminder." Taking a half step back, Kenneth made way. "Go ahead. The door to the world of mages has been opened to you. I feel your talent, and look forward to you beating those self-righteous idiots to pieces." Meredith spoke only after the 2 Thorn Watchers had gone far away. Mage Kenneth is one of the few normal people among the Black Mages. Although his words and deeds are easy to be misunderstood, and his appearance is a bit sinister, he is still a good guy. At least he won't stab people in the back. Lester nodded without comment, but turned the topic to another female mage. That female mage named Carida, what kind of magic is she proficient in? Here, the learning process of every mage is very complicated, and it is difficult to see what is going on from the tiny learning process. But Mage Carida has never missed the Shadow Magic Open class, so Mage Carida must have unique insights into shadow magic. As they were talking, Meredith brought the 2 to the magic fence gate of the Black Rose Mage Academy. Under the illumination of the magic glowstone lamp, the thorny black rose blooming on the iron fence gate was particularly conspicuous, making people unable to look away. This black iron fence gate and the wall have very powerful enchantment properties. Trespassers will be marked by magic, and will also be rebounded by the spells of the entire Magic Academy. The rebound is attached with more than a dozen negative states such as burn, soul shock, shock, and mental piercing. Such power is difficult to withstand even the strength of the great mage, so it is not an easy task to break into the Mage Academy by force. Put your hand on the iron fence gate, and after the magic attribute recognition, the iron fence gate slowly opens. Once your magical aura is recorded, you will be qualified to open the door. However, you cannot enter and exit this door at will without completing the basic courses and reaching the level of a black magician. Before the iron gate was opened, in Lester's vision, the interior of the academy was a grey and blurry fog. It was not until the gate was opened and he walked into the academy that his isolated perception was restored again, and a vast and magnificent academy building came into view. I caught a cold again. Damn, you want me to play with snot, right? I have to eat something delicious for the new year. Everyone, if you have monthly tickets, please use them quickly. During the February holidays, I will be a ruthless update machine. Chapter 164 The Dead-Eyed Mentor Obsessed with Research. Led by Meredith, Lester and Tally walked towards the central spire. Along the way, they could see many students reading the diary. Seeing the three passing by, many mage students seemed a little indifferent, which was in line with Lester's expectations. More or less, vigilant black mages should be a little withdrawn. It is forbidden to cast spells at will inside the academy. If you want to practice spells, you can go to the magic practice field and magic study room. The difference is that the latter with magic auxiliary equipment needs to pay an extra price, either credits or Shurima coins. After walking for more than half an hour, the distant spire was getting closer and closer. A gothic dark castle tower appeared in front of Lester. It was estimated that the area alone was hundreds of square kilometers. The entire castle was made of smooth black rock, and the ground was paved with long pyroxene bricks. The magic torches emitting orange-yellow flames and the glowing white pyroxene-like street lamps dispelled the darkness and illuminated the direction of progress. After walking into the castle through the open gate, Meredith walked to the empty magic light board and spoke to Lester and Tally. The magic light board records the public classes that will be delivered in the near future. When you have completed the selection of instructors, you can listen to more public classes. It will not harm you. Looking at the glowing magic light board that is the same as a monitor, Lester was full of curiosity. November 12th, Hall 12, Instructor Hadder, on the close relationship between natural spell symbols and resonance of magic arrays. November 15th, Hall 3, Instructor Morris, the principle of making low-level soul extraction spells and incomplete soul pyroxene. November 23rd. Hall 1, Grand Instructor Rose, the journey of world rune exploration starting from the Hylia civilization. After deliberately paying attention to the public classes that he was interested in, Lester withdrew his gaze. There were still more than 2 weeks before Rose's public class, so he should have enough time. Knowing that the man had already made plans, Meredith said nothing more and continued to walk deeper into the somewhat deserted corridor. The building layout of the academy is roughly divided into accommodation areas, public class halls, private teaching rooms, performance class review offices, library and training grounds. In addition, there are some wizard towers built by prestigious wizards themselves. Generally speaking, the learning resources inside the academy are very abundant. Some wizards will live here for decades, just to borrow the resources of the academy, to complete their magic studies. The three of them came to the northwest area of the second floor after many twists and turns. Meredith pushed open the wooden door of the private teaching room, which surprised a middle-aged female wizard who was sitting on a wooden chair with her chin resting on her hand. She stood up immediately. Mage Meredith, you're back. Mage Neris, how are you doing recently? With a wry smile, the wizard named Neris shook her head and looked at Lester wearing a mask and Tally, who was beautiful and quiet. Not so good. Let's not talk about me. These two should be the new students arranged by Ms. Rose, Master Lester and Master Tally, right? Meredith nodded and said softly, okay, please arrange it for them as soon as possible. Master Lester, this is the location of my residence. If you have any questions, you can come to me. However, everyone has their own path in choosing a mentor. Your mentor will guide you to complete the basic things. I won't get involved. Watching Meredith leave, Neris smiled at the two of them. Introduce yourself. I will organize the information of the mentors for you according to the direction you are eager to learn. After determining the general direction, you can visit the corresponding mentors to see if you are satisfied. This process is a two-way choice until both parties are satisfied and determined. After a brief discussion, Tailai chose the curse magic that she has always been interested in. From the list given by Neris, she decided to visit the elderly female mage Eston, who is proficient in curse magic. Lester himself has a strong interest in most magic, but considering the talent problem, the man decided to give priority to learning natural ice magic. Well, let me see, Neris said, flipping through the list of instructors. In the academy, there are 8 instructors who are willing to teach natural arcane magic. Among them, there are 2 instructors with outstanding talents in the field of ice magic. One is Master Nagaroth and the other is Master Tarina. Here are their information. You can confirm which one you like more. I personally recommend Master Nagaroth. At least compared to the other mage, he is easier to talk to. Lester quickly read the 2 information for a few minutes and was a little confused. Master Tarina has never recruited other students. Nodding, Neris sighed. This is the biggest problem. Master Tarina is obsessed with magic research and was unwilling to become a mentor. She became a mentor only to stay in the academy. This also led to her 2 strict standards for accepting apprentices. Many apprentices wanted to become Master Tarina's students before, but they were rejected by Tarina on the grounds of stupidity and stubbornness. This situation was not allowed at first, but because of Master Tarina's outstanding performance in the field of natural energy rune magic and the fact that she provided the academy with many new rune research theoretical foundations, Master Tarina was allowed to continue to conduct private research under the title of mentor. To be honest, I don't think you can get Master Tarina's approval, because in my opinion, she simply doesn't want to take apprentices. No matter how talented you are, you may just be a trouble in her eyes. She's the one. That's good. Master Nagaroth is still. Wait, you chose Master Tarina? Didn't you hear what I just said to you? Lester nodded in confirmation and smiled. I heard it. So where is she now? A muffled sound came from a private wizard tower more than 10 meters high in the residential area of the castle. A female wizard with dark circles under her eyes and tattered cloth hanging on her body climbed up from the pile of fragments of the exploded magic extractor, spitting blood expressionlessly, not caring about her fair body being exposed to the air. The female wizard pulled a few tattered cloth strips that were a bit in the way, walked straight to the research table under the headlights, picked up a feather pen, and began to write furiously. Arcane energy with a purity of more than 95% can be quickly charged and can cast magic within 3 seconds. You can try to increase the purity of arcane energy again. Stabilizing magic symbols requires further improvement. It has been determined that the mixed attribute will play a reverse role and cannot achieve the expected balance, but the appropriate construction of the mixed energy injection array can increase the power of explosive magic. The female wizard with dark circles under her eyes rolled up her dead eyes and shook the pen of the feather pen and lowered her head again. Adding 3 energy storage symbols to the shaping array will cause it to completely collapse, but 2 energy storage symbols plus miscellaneous attributes can achieve a balance, making it a dual purpose. Knock, knock, knock. I'm the Thorn supervisor. May I ask what just happened here? The female mage wanted to ignore the knocking sound, but the content of the speaker forced her to divert her attention from the experimental notes. At least now, she couldn't afford to offend the Thorn supervisor. Chapter 165 Blackbrush Teacher's Magic Notebook. After casually putting on a new robe to cover her private parts, Tarina came to the first floor with an expressionless face and opened the magic stone door. Standing at the door was not the supervisor wearing the thorn robe as she imagined, but a young man in gorgeous dark style aristocratic clothing. This strange man had a good appearance, but unfortunately she was not interested. You are not the Thorn supervisor. Why do you lie? Because if I don't lie, you probably won't open the door. The female mage did not refute this point, but dispelled her resentment towards the man's lies. She did not dislike a man who used some tricks to achieve his goals. Looking at the sloppy woman with dead fish eyes but delicate appearance, the man admitted it openly and stated his purpose. You are indeed very busy with your research. I know you lack an assistant. I also know that others can't do the job well, so I came. Listen, young wizard, I don't need an assistant. There is no need for you to waste your time here. I don't accept apprentices. Master Tarina, there is no need to deceive yourself. Try to answer my 3 questions. If you can do it, it means you really don't need an assistant. Then I will turn around and leave and will never bother you again. Perhaps the man's gentle attitude touched her. Tarina hesitated for a moment, but still nodded. Stop talking nonsense. Have you managed to take a shower every 3 days? I only take a shower once a month. I don't wear clothes when doing experiments. I use magic to clean up the rest of the time. Do you feel that it is a waste of time to clean up the mess after the experiment? Do you want to find someone who can save you time to do these meaningless things? It is really meaningless to clean up the mess. You hit the point. Unfortunately, other apprentice wizards may not be able to do it well, so I choose to do it myself. Is it troublesome to deal with others? Especially some social events that you have to deal with. It's difficult for a mentor to have no suitable apprentice to cover for you, right? Reaching out and pulling the man's face, the female wizard's dead fish eyes and dark circles were getting closer and closer, almost sticking to the man's face. You are quite interesting. Do you think you can do these 3 things? More than 3. Lester held the female wizard's little hand that was pinching his right cheek, with a serious face. Teacher Tarina, you can treat me as your personal butler. Just teach me magic in your spare time. I'm more useful than you think, whether it is day or night. Humph. If you are not useful, I will freeze you into popsicles, break you into pieces, throw you out, and plant you in the soil, and see if you can grow big mushrooms the next year. After saying something that could easily be misunderstood, the female wizard pulled the man into the wizard tower, and the magic stone door closed. The trial period is 3 days. The tools are in the bathroom on the 2nd floor. Now help me to sort out the garbage pile in the magic laboratory on the 3rd floor. I will need it later. Organizing things is not a profound skill, but in the world of killers, being able to quickly organize things into categories so that you can find what you want without any thinking is a complicated subject. Lester went straight to the 3rd floor with common tools and quickly found the old chemical equipment that was blown to pieces. With the help of a broom and a long-handled dustpan, he quickly cleaned the garbage that could no longer be used into a square bucket with clean and neat movements. By the time Tarina carried a new magic extractor up to the 3rd floor, Lester had already cleaned up all the blood stains on the floor. After wiping, the entire laboratory looked brand new. Tarina's eyes lit up, and she was very impressed by the man's neat movements. Lester took the metal vase, a thin metal tube and a crystal stool from the female mage who had difficulty moving. He recognized that the garbage he had just cleaned into the square bucket was the thing in his hand, and he deliberately kept the crystal. With her hands free, the female mage was more interested in talking. This is a magic extractor, made of purified crystals and magic absorbing metals. This device can be used to purify arcane energy, magic element, of various properties. Normally, the purer the arcane energy, the more powerful the magic it contains. Everyone has different talents, and their abilities to absorb and purify arcane energy are also different. Mages who can reach more than 90% can be considered natural spellcasters. A few spellcasters who can do more than 95% can quickly charge the array. After their proficiency is improved, it is no different from instant magic. Only by using a magic extractor can the purity of magic reach a theoretical 99%. How to use high purity arcane energy to cast spells instantly, and even abandon the constraints of the array and directly guide spells through arcane runes, is my main research direction now. Under the guidance of Tarina, Lester placed the magic extractor and was then stuffed with a thick notebook taken from the bookshelf by the female mage and driven out of the 3rd floor. First, learn the arcane symbols before you talk about other things. This manual records the principles of analyzing 65 known arcane symbols, with 12 commonly used, and 3 unconventional magic array models. If you don't understand something, write it down first. I will answer you when I have time, but don't ask me 2 stupid questions. Doing so will only make me think you are a fool and kick you out. Before starting to read the magic notebook, Lester first confirmed the layout of the wizard tower. The underground first floor is a basement with messy magic materials and alchemical items. The first floor is a dusty magic crystal stove and pots and pans, and a magic freezer with ready-made instant food. There is a bedroom and a large magic bathroom on the second floor, which is where the female wizard sleeps and washes. The third floor and above are all magic research rooms. At this moment, the door is closed. Unless it is forcibly dismantled, no one can break the rune mark that flashes with magic glow. Coming down from the second floor, Lester sat on the leather sofa on the first floor and began to read the notebook. He directly skipped the analytical principle of arcane symbols and found the description of the shaping array at the back. The female mage's delicate handwriting was full of rational beauty, just like a traditional scientist who was rigorous and meticulous. This woman was indeed very capable, very impressive. Before this, I learned simple shaping arrays from Meredith. A simple shaping array has 3 basic functional units: energy conduction, energy gathering, and form transformation. These 3 basic units have a total of 11 arcane symbols, none of which are indispensable. The description in this notebook is very detailed. In addition to the ordinary basic functional units, there are 5 more changing forms. By adding 18 arcane symbols to the shaping array, you can get a simplified version of the 5 new features of positioning, burst, wave reduction, acceleration, and dissipation. Break the arcane symbols into pieces and analyze them, and describe the functional composition of the array from the basic units of the arcane symbols. It seems that I have found the right person this time and I have picked up a treasure. Please vote. Recommendation votes or monthly votes are all fine. I'll get 400 monthly votes soon. I'll add more chapters when I get 400. As for comments, I don't have any requirements, as long as you don't curse. Please invest. It's really terrible that you can't follow up with me. I'm really upset. Chapter 166. My teacher is a weird one. When Tarina, who had finished the phased harmony experiment, dozed off and walked down the 3rd floor, she smelled the aroma of broth that made her mouth water. Tarina, who forgot to wear her robe and didn't treat herself as an outsider, put on a robe of the female mage. Lester was like the most perfect butler. Under the female mage's somewhat surprised eyes, he supported the female mage's arm very gentlemanly and sat on the dining table. Mage Tarina, there are not enough ingredients tonight. I will go out to buy some tomorrow. The Okraline meat soup is still short of some seasonings, so the taste may be light. If you have other special tastes, you can tell me. Tarina scooped up half a spoonful of light red broth with a soup spoon, tasted it carefully, and her eyes lit up. It tastes good. This degree is just right for me. That's good. After cutting the buttered bread for the female mage, Lester also started to eat. He already had his own set of methods and experience on how to conquer empty-nest women with meticulous care, and it was just right to use it on the lonely female mage at this moment. Would you like to take a bath after dinner? A bath is fine. You may not know how to use the magic heating device yet. I will show you how to do it then. Take this. Don't lose it, otherwise it will be very troublesome. Lester took the crystal disc thrown by the female mage, and he was a little confused. This is the gate access crystal of this mage tower. With this, you can enter and exit at will, otherwise it will be inconvenient for you. By the way, do you have a place to stay at night? Has the academy assigned you a place to stay? Not yet. Then you can stay here with me. The academy's accommodation is not as good as mine. You can sleep on the floor in my room. As long as you don't sleep too badly, I don't mind. I only have one request for you. Don't touch my bed in the middle of the night. Can you promise? Without any pretentious intention, Lester directly agreed to this somewhat abrupt and ambiguous question. If possible, I'd be honored to be in the same room with Mage Tarina. After swallowing the bread in a few mouthfuls, Tarina said calmly, as long as you do well, I don't mind having some physical relations with you in my spare time. After all, physical contact is also conducive to communication and exchange between people. I'm also very interested in what the offspring born of magical blood will be like. I said this only because I'm not ready to have children yet, and I have never had experience in dealing with men, so please understand that I may need your guidance when necessary. The man was a little stunned. The female mage in front of him seemed to be more strange than he had imagined. Okay, I still have to go upstairs to complete the experiment. You can go upstairs and sleep after you are done. After finishing the broth in 2 or 3 mouthfuls, the female mage cleaned her mouth with magic and turned around and went upstairs directly. Obviously, she forgot to demonstrate the magic water heater to Lester. Master Terina is such a strange person. He laughed, always feeling that he was too despicable to deliberately plot against such a female mage. The man patted his face and threw away his ulterior motives. He originally thought that the lonely female mage would be difficult to deal with, but he didn't expect that she was unexpectedly simple. It's better to live with simple people and become simple. After all, I'm just here to learn magic, explore shaper shifting and immortality. Relying on her accumulation in the Emerald Territory, Tali successfully cast the simplest curse magic, Itch. Dogtail grass, night eggplant flower, skull ashes, plus a little arcane guidance. The glove magic disappeared along with the spellcasting materials. The puppy lying on the table began to scratch its neck with its hind legs. The more it scratched, the more itchy it became. Soon, its hair fell off, and its skin was broken, which made the kind-hearted old mage very satisfied. With a dry hand, she gently stroked the puppy's neck. Eston successfully dispelled the itch, and the female mage's chrysanthemum-like face slowly bloomed, with a long smile. The dog politely said "Pa," and ran away quickly. You can successfully cast a curse magic with the help of magic materials for the first time. You really have a talent for cursing others. Miss Terry, are you willing to learn from me? I'm willing, Teacher Eston. Yes, then you are my student. You can read this book. Don't spread it to others. If you have any questions, you can ask me every Sunday. My requirement for you is to complete the reading and study of a large chapter in 2 months. I will not interfere with other things. However, there will be a performance test in 2 months. You'd better prepare for it. You can't delay earning credits. You must at least have a certain level of practical ability. At that time, I will test your learning results in advance. Don't let me down. Holding the precious curse spell notes in her arms, Terry left the wizard tower of Master Eston. Standing at the door, Terry lowered her head and thought. The most urgent thing now is to get a place of my own. I don't know how Lord Lester is doing. You are Mr. Eston's new student, right? What's your name? My name is Dylan. I started 2 years earlier than you. Have you found a place to live? Do you need any help? At some point, a handsome middle-aged man in a black apprentice robe stood in front of Tali, looking enthusiastic. Taking a step back, Tali smiled and shook her head, politely refusing. Thank you for your kindness, Master Dylan. I will solve the housing problem myself. Sorry, I already have a male companion. Please don't make it difficult for me. Haha, I don't have any bad intentions. I just want to help. Dylan pretended to smile, but he didn't mean to pester you. I apologize if I made it difficult for you. It doesn't matter. I'm also very happy to meet someone as enthusiastic as Master Dylan. Then I'll leave first, Master Dylan. Smiling and watching the beautiful black-haired female mage leave, Dylan smiled silently and walked in a certain direction. He had seen many women like this, but he had never seen a woman who could resist his methods. Master Naris, do I need to apply for a place to live next? Yes, Master Tali. Without any impatience, Naris patiently explained. Being recognized by the mentor as an apprentice is a real first step. Otherwise, you will not be eligible for a place to live simply by enrolling. Go to the gypsy mage and tell him the name of your mentor. He will arrange a suitable place for you. When they were completely settled, the midnight magic bell of the castle had already rung, indicating that the second half of the night had arrived. Tali successfully obtained a key and moved into an independent bedroom in the residential area of the female mage. The bathroom and kitchen were in the compartment, which was very convenient to use. Lying on the brand new cotton bed with some fatigue, Tali covered herself with a quilt, closed her eyes, listened to the chirping of night insects underground, and gradually fell asleep. Is this the life of a mage? It seems very interesting. Chapter 167 The difference between being able to see, but not touch, and being able to see and touch. Early in the morning, Lester saw 2 large headlights hanging on the edge of the bed, which were extremely attractive and frightening. The woman's pajamas were crooked, and it was no different from not wearing any clothes. It turns out that I'm not the one who has a bad sleeping posture. After simply tidying up the bed on the floor, Lester, with a wry smile, arranged the pajamas for Tarina and covered her with the quilt again, at least covering up everything that should be covered tightly. After all, in his opinion, that thing is actually not interesting after seeing it too much, and it is still a big gap compared to the mysterious magic. Lester left the bedroom and waited until Lester made something simple with the remaining ingredients. Tarina, who smelled the fragrance, came downstairs in a disheveled robe and sat on the dining table with an expressionless face and began to eat. Lester's temples throbbed twice and his stable nerves were rarely stimulated by others. Where is my big underwear? I just put it on you. How can it be gone? Mage Tarina, don't you like wearing clothes? Yes, clothes are actually the most unnecessary thing. If we put aside the inexplicable sense of shame, human skin is the most perfect defense equipment. Just having this layer of skin is enough. Then you have to wear more or less, right? I'm a healthy man after all. You are like this. I'm very embarrassed. Tarina was puzzled by the man's reaction. I find it troublesome, and don't men like this kind of half-covered body the most? Why are you unhappy when I wear it like this? Lester was choked by the female mage and was a little speechless. He comforted her earnestly. Mage Tarina, you have to understand that being able to see and touch is different from being able to see but not touch. Can I touch you when you wear it like this? After hesitating for a while, the female mage with dead eyes nodded. It's up to you, as long as it doesn't make me pregnant and doesn't affect my experiment. The man was completely stunned. After being told this, he lost interest in that aspect. This female mage is really a genius. It seems that you agree with my point of view. By the way, breakfast is well cooked. In the academy, you need Shurima coins or credits to buy things. Here are 30 Shurima gold coins. Take them first. If you don't have enough, tell me. I'll go up first. After watching the female mage leave, Lester shook the cloth bag full of gold coins in his hand, a little confused. Why does this seem like so familiar? Taking the small wallet given by the rich woman, Lester left the mage tower and went straight to the residential area of the academy. Before exploring the academy, he needed to make sure whether Tally had settled down. You mean the black-haired female mage apprentice? Who are you to her? I'm her man. Then your luck is really good. Gypshia smiled meaningfully. Room 3203 in the Tulip District. What Riddler? Without getting entangled with the old man, Lester, who complained in his heart, quickly found the third tall stone building in the Tulip District along the partition and walked up to the second floor. During this time, a disheveled woman half opened the door, poked her head out, and stared at Lester with a vigilant look. After seeing Lester's appearance, she quickly closed the door. Seeing this scene, Lester couldn't help but worry about Tally's safety. What kind of weirdo is this? Knock 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 Tally? Lord Lester? Putting down the notebook, Tally stood up happily and opened the wooden door. Let's go to the academy together. Yes. The Black Rose Mage Academy has its own commercial area, which has everything from magic materials to common food and general merchandise. In the contract, signed between the Black Rose Association represented by Rose and Narxus, there is a treaty that Narxus supplies materials to the Black Rose. Fortunately, raising hundreds of mages is not a burden. For Narxus, the most important thing is to get the support of the mages. Of course, the supply of materials within the Mage Academy does not rely entirely on Narxus, and the Black Rose Association also has its own channels. The two came to the commercial area. Unlike other areas, the number of pedestrians on the move increased at a speed visible to the naked eye. There are a wide variety of shops on both sides of the square brick street. As long as they pay enough rent, anyone can do business here. Walking into a small shop called Lena Vegetable Store, Lester picked up a big potato. How much is it? The owner was a middle-aged woman in a robe. Upon hearing this, she interrupted her communication with another mage and approached Lester and the others. 2 Shurima copper coins or 0.1 credits. I personally recommend that you buy it with Shurima copper coins. 1. Just 1. The middle-aged woman nodded in confirmation and looked at Lester. Are you new here? If you think it's expensive, go out from here and find a random vegetable seller and ask if it's this price. Having a certain understanding of the vegetable prices in the academy, Lester casually smelled the prices of other vegetables before walking out of the shop. In Emerald Territory, 2 kilograms of potatoes only cost 1 copper coin. The consumption here is very high. It seems that the majors are indeed very rich. The rewards for earning credits or Shurima coins by completing tasks are not small. Then, should we buy something? I have saved some money myself, which is enough for a while. Money will always run out one day. Now there are no suitable performance classes to earn credits. It is better to find a few tasks that can make money. In the new environment, first ensure that you can survive independently and then consider other things. Okay. Knowing that Taileye did not have much social experience, Lester was also a little worried that the simple barbarian girl would be deceived. As his woman, he would naturally not ignore it. Lester paid for some food, and the two came to the Mage Commission office with Independent Land. The villa-like architectural design looks very impressive. The mages coming and going walked hurriedly, obviously unwilling to waste too much time on the road. Walking into the Task Commission office on marble, the staff in charge of reception did not say much nonsense and directly handed over the magic slate. This is today's commission task. If you need a detailed introduction, please pay a consultation fee of 10 copper coins. Do you two need additional consultation? No, we can just take a look ourselves. Okay. After the staff left, Lester looked at the strange stone tablet in his hand again. There were obvious array patterns on the translucent square magic slate. You could feel the obvious magic fluctuations in your hand. Shaking it a few times, it felt like the center of gravity was shifted, as if it was filled with water. Lester tried to input magic power. The magic slate flickered a few times and gradually stabilized. The originally messy runes were rearranged and combined to form a string of tiny ancient Valoran. It is worth mentioning that the ancient Valoran language is the origin language of Naxos and Demacia. As long as you know Dino, you can understand part of the ancient Valoran language more or less. Lester and Taileye deliberately learned the ancient Valoran language commonly used by mages, so they naturally have no reading difficulties. Basic curse magic material processing, 30 copper coins per hour. Client, Brat, Junior Robe Sewing Master, charged by piece, price negotiable. Client, Bellamy, Potion Extraction Apprentice, bring your own herbs, repair the Mage Tower, stonemasons, or carpenters preferred. There are a total of 23 commissions. On the stone slab, some are about designing magic foundations and professional foundations, and some are simple physical labor. The only difference is that the former is paid much more than the latter. This should be a task open only to apprentices. Different levels can accept different tasks. Pick one, and we'll do it together. After thinking for a while, Tally pointed to the task of Basic Curse Magic Material Processing. I just learned this briefly in the notebook, given by Teacher Estant. Can I try it? Holding the female mage's hand, Lester smiled slightly. Of course. If I could have such a teacher, I would definitely be able to make myself pregnant. Chapter 168 Worship the Scarlet Lamb. The door of the Immortal Fortress conference room was closed and heavily guarded. Led by Nadars, the members of the Naxxon Supreme Command, composed of the leaders of various warbands, sat in their seats with serious faces. Tell me about the current intelligence. Stender nodded to Nadars, took a deep breath, and said in a deep voice, we just received news from the Pigeon of the Southern Sentry Tower yesterday. 8 days ago, a group of looters consisting of more than 100 people, composed of Beru thugs and Shurima-san bandits, landed on the southeast coast. After abandoning the warships, they raided and slaughtered many villages along the way. After that, they lost their traces, and are suspected to be fleeing to the Valoran plain in the west. At present, General Valks is leading his warband members to search for the traces of the looters along the way. How did the Beru people get involved with the Shurimans? Dirksiu pinched his nose, looking puzzled. Don't those sea savages who like to play with snakes never leave their island? How are they related to the Shurimans in the desert? Without answering Dirksiu's question, Stender just shook his head and continued. We are not only being invaded from the south, the Freljord in the north are also unwilling to be left out. They have merged the howling winds of the Dalmor Plains barbarians and the winter claws of the Freljord to form an alliance. the Winter Claws ambushed General Northlet's warband, and the warband was defeated. It has now retreated to Fort Nova on the northern foothills of the Goral Mountains. Lord Vakal, who was suppressing the Valoran plains, led his warband north to provide support last night, but compared to the two barbarian tribes, our forces are far from enough, especially the Howling Winds tribe with its troll troops. It is difficult for our warriors to cause effective damage to the big guys in armor. In addition to large warbands, we can summon small warbands and regroup an army to defeat the barbarians in the north. I, Ursus, am willing to be the vanguard. He patted the conference table heavily, and the tribal tattoos on Ursus' face looked a little hideous. That's the problem. Our food and logistics are not enough to launch another expedition. General Vakal took away the last batch of food from the Immortal Fortress when he left. What should we do? I don't have any extra food here. If I use the remaining seeds and grain, it will affect next year's spring plowing. The fat black man Springhornmilder moved his buttocks, looking confused, while others focused their eyes on the silent black-robed female mage. At this moment, the female mage who was in a meeting was playing with her delicate nails, but she looked absent-minded. Ahem, Ms. Rose, what do you think? Rose raised her head and smiled. You should know, Lord Nadals, that the mages of Naxos do not produce, and the supply of materials to the Mage Academy is an agreement we have reached long ago, and should not be violated. Of course, the supplies that should be given to the Black Rose will definitely not be less, but now, Naxos has indeed encountered some troubles and needs the help of the Black Rose. And I heard that Lord Lester is currently studying at the Black Rose Mage Academy. I wonder if you can help communicate and see if Lord Lester can provide some help within his ability. There is no need to deal with the frail-jawed people in the north. Just help to block the roaming looters on the Valoran plain. Of course, I can convey your request on your behalf. No, it's not a request. It's a request. Rubbing his hands, Nadals looked sincere. I believe that for the creator of miracles, the demon lord of the Emerald Territory, this is just a trivial matter. North of the Grand Barrier, in the southeastern coastal area of the Valoran continent, there used to be 4 adjacent villages that watched over each other and helped each other. Now, after the looters ravaged, only one is left. More than 500 looters unwillingly surrounded the last village, staring at the evil man standing in front of them with sinister eyes. He was wearing a scarlet noble robe in the style of the old times, with sparse dry and pale silver hair, an old face, and a disgusting bloody smell all over his body. There was no doubt that this was a terrible wizard. Master Wizard, you are our only support and savior. Considering that we have served you for so many years, please save us. I will also give you my second daughter. The ignorant village chief tied his daughter with a long rope like a dumpling, and pulled the rope like a lamb, handing his teenage daughter to the owner of the scarlet eyes. Gently stroking the soft hair of the terrified girl, his fingers transformed into sharp long knives in the blood magic as they slid downwards, easily cutting the long rope, and instantly transformed into dancing snakes that could excite the girl's body. The wizard in luxurious robes reached out to play with the girl's delicate body, gradually narrowing his narrow eyes, as if he was tasting a glass of strong red wine. Unfortunately, her taste was not as strong as her sister's. You are my servants, and I will naturally protect you. After touching the girl's trembling body for a few minutes, the scarlet wizard's gentle voice reached the village chief's ears, and the village chief who was kneeling on the ground breathed a sigh of relief. Thank you for your kindness, Master Wizard. Smiling and nodding, the man played with the girl's body while looking indifferently at the aggressive robbers, especially the heads of several wizards holding skull scepters and wearing sea beast furs. The fleeting years will always take away the things we love. Everyone needs to accept this tragedy. Even if I have forgotten many things, I still remember that I should protect my lambs. They are my sacrifices, not yours. Licking the girl's slender neck, the man's voice became a little deeper. Snake playing sea smelling wizard, get out of here. Don't let me say it again. The leader of the sand bandits, who was stared at by the man, was a little uneasy and asked the Beru priest next to him in a low voice. Sasho, can your snake caller kill this dead pervert? The Beru priest named Sasho shook his head. If you have heard the story of the scarlet wizard who masters blood magic and the blood cliff, you will not ask this question. Unless we are at the seaside with the help of the snake mother and sea beasts, it will be useless, no matter how many of us there are. We can't hurt him at all. Don't forget, we have more important things to do. At this point, Sasho raised his voice and his voice became louder. There is no point in offending us. Leave now. As Sasho took the lead in leading his men to retreat, the leader of the sand bandits simply spat out a mouthful of thick phlegm and ordered them to leave. Master Wizard, thank you for your generous protection. It's time to reward my obedient lamb. Amid the cheers of the villagers, the Scarlet Wizard took off all the girl's clothes, and in the eyes of admiration and worship of everyone, he pierced the girl's neck with his fingertips. The girl's fear reached its peak, but she lost the opportunity to struggle. She never knew that her father's so-called opportunity to serve the Master Wizard was to be sucked blood. By the time she realized this, it was too late. Streams of mellow blood swirled out from the breach in an artistic way, and after circling in the air for a few seconds, they were sucked into the mouth of the intoxicated man with a pure fragrance. The girl's face gradually turned pale, and her plump flesh quickly sagged and aged. The essence of life passed away, and the shriveled body soon lost its last vitality. After licking the last drop of virgin blood from the girl's neck, the wizard, who let the girl, who had turned into a dry skin bag, lie on the ground, showed a gentle and satisfied smile with a little more blood on his body. Lambs, I have indeed received your reward. Will you leave our village? The wizard smiled softly as he looked at the reluctant villagers. Not before I find my past memories, but I still need your service and sacrifices. The nasty vampire appears. Let's isolate him together. Chapter 169 Soul Extraction Open Class. The third hall of the Black Rose Mage Academy. The circular seats, like those in a Roman theater, were all occupied. A thin short female mage was holding a glittering colorful magic crystal and talking to the amplified magic stone. Behind the female mage, a prisoner was sitting on a chair with his hands tied up. All life has soul energy. The difference between humans and goats is that human souls can fill this soul crystal, but goats can't. As early as the Dark Ages, wizards who were proficient in soul magic invented the life-stripping spell to stably extract human souls. As long as a person is fixed on a magic conductive stone and the corresponding soul extraction technique is performed, the human soul can be directly stripped from the body. Then, through the directional transmission of the magic conductive stone, the wizard can obtain the soul crystal and successfully apply the energy of the soul crystal in battle. The energy of the soul crystal can be used to enchant equipment, can be used as an energy stone to drive a magic circle or a puppet, and can also be used to increase one's own mental power. However, it should be noted that the soul may contain some toxic substances that disrupt personal consciousness. Excessive accumulation of toxic substances will cause the soul to split and cause serious damage to the individual. Therefore, when absorbing and using soul crystals to enhance and supplement one's own mental power, the toxic substances must be removed. This also means that the normal absorption method is often very long, and the slightest mistake will cause serious damage to oneself. After a pause, the female sorceress came to the first prisoner and took out a light blue three-sided single-cone gem from the enchanted leather bag on her waist. I will not elaborate on how to use a soul crystal here. Students who are interested can come to me after class to buy the relevant information I have compiled. The first 10 can get a 10% discount. There are 2 key points I want to explain here. First, how to make low-level soul crystals, and whether ordinary magic gems and crystals can be used as containers and carriers of soul crystals. Second, if you have a suitable soul crystal, how to extract the soul of an ordinary person to charge the soul crystal. In the following time, I will use 5 experimental subjects to explain the specific steps of soul extraction. Now I will simply demonstrate how to transform ordinary colored zircon into a colorless and transparent soul pyroxene through magic. I personally recommend Master Skadi's gem transformation. It only takes 3 1/3 of the mana flow time to make the zircon crystal colorless and form a stable gem structure. Sitting between Meredith and Tally, Lester, holding a notebook and a quill, listened attentively to what Master Morris said. However, Master Skadiel's gem transformation technique still touched upon the man's blind spot in knowledge. Seeing that Master Morris was preparing to cast a spell, he whispered to Meredith, Where can I learn gem transformation technique? Gem transformation technique is a relatively common material transformation technique. I happen to have read some of Master Scadiel's spell manuscripts in the library. I can copy a copy for you after the end. Thank you, Meredith. It's nothing. Strictly speaking, Lord Lester, you are also half a student of mine. After Lester and Meredith had a brief exchange, Morris made a new move. The magic was activated. On the array disk, the originally light blue zircon crystal faded blue, and the entire three-sided single cone structure was constantly changing in the light of magic, forming a more stable and beautiful four-sided double cone structure. The spell stopped, and the originally light blue trigonal single cone zircon crystal had turned into a transparent tetragonal double cone sol pyroxene. The more precious the sol pyroxene is, the more edges it has, and the more complex it is. To shape a low-level sol pyroxene, you only need to achieve a trigonal double cone structure. Intermediate sol pyroxene must reach a hexagonal double cone or above. In addition to the material of the high-level sol pyroxene being a perfect large spinel, it is also necessary to achieve the perfect standard of an octagonal double cone in the process of shaping the shape. The real high-level sol pyroxene has always been in short supply. Those who are interested can come to me after class to buy relevant information. The first 5 will get a 10% discount. First come first served. After making another advertisement, Mollis looked at the desperate soul extraction experiment subject and smiled at the curious mage who was listening to the class. Next, I will show you a new soul extraction spell. How to use spells in the sol pyroxene in your hand to extract a person's soul without the help of magic conduction stones. Those experimental subjects are all villains who committed capital crimes in the back alleys of the slums or on the mirror corridors. They are extremely evil and deserve to die. Taylai, you don't need to have any psychological burden for the death of these people. Being able to devote themselves to the magic is the last value of their survival. Well, I understand. Before guiding the spell, it is best to let the target of your soul extraction enter a near-death state. This will help increase the chance of success. Now, I will cast the curse spell of corruption on the first experimental subject. The moment the voice fell, the spell was completed. The strong middle-aged man wailed in pain, and his plump body began to shrink. The green veins and purple blood vessels kept beating between the bulging, as if they were about to tear the skin and rush out from under the body surface. In just a dozen seconds, a normal person became a ghost. In this dying state, the human body and soul will enter a state of fluctuation. It is just right to cast the soul stripping spell at this time. Pressing the square double conical sol pyroxene on the man's forehead, Mollis muttered something, and a complex magic circle appeared out of thin air, circling with the sol pyroxene as a core. Lester widened his eyes and looked into the distance with the perspective of perceiving the elemental world. A phantom emitting colorful light was being forcibly pulled by the magic circle to strip off the dull flesh, and then was quickly absorbed by the colorless sol pyroxene. The colorless sol pyroxene was like an impenetrable cage. Under the forced operation of the soul stripping spell, the colorful shadows symbolizing the soul were firmly imprisoned in the crystal. When he came to his senses, his body had turned gray and became a useless broken shell. Exiting the perspective of the magic element, the man who was struggling and wailing just now had lost his voice and slumped in a chair. He was bound by a cowhide rope with only a thin layer of rotten skin. With Morris's patting, the thin skin like light sand turned into an ugly pool of rotten dust, without any trace of the original human being. Holding the sol pyroxene emitting colorful soul light high, Morris's voice was impassioned. No doubt. This is a perfect demonstration. The monthly ticket will soon be 400. Brothers, please vote for me. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 170 Nuclear Peace Messenger Mendeleev. Has Lester not decided where to live here yet? Haha, you're so cute. When you're so angry, go to hell. Old ghost, don't take the money and not do the job. Boy, are you threatening me? Facing Gyptia's suddenly cold eyes, although Ulysses felt something was wrong, he was still surprisingly tough. This is our agreement, you can't break it. Save it, little idiot. If Dylan was as stupid as you, he would have been dragged away by the law enforcement team to do black magic experiments. Gypsy said coldly, not wanting to pay attention to this idiot who wanted to bribe her and secretly do something. Now, get out of my sight. Don't let me say it again, you little bastard. Not knowing that someone was going to mess with him and his woman, Lester was studying the spell manuscript of Master Scadia copied by Meredith in the Mage Tower of Tyrina. In addition to recording the gem transformation, there were also several common material transformation and generation techniques. At least in Lester's opinion, after learning, as long as he was not afraid of insufficient magic, it would not be a problem to rub a tang sword out of scrap metal with his bare hands. Magic is really a magical thing. If used properly, the Valoran continent can even reach the technological level of later generations by developing magic. I just don't know what Piltover, the capital of Hextech technology, can do. If possible, it is not impossible to tie big-headed Medina to the Emerald Territory to keep him company with the Flower Rat. Closing the manuscript, Lester calmed down and picked up the pile of rusty scrap metal he had purchased specially and slowly closed his eyes. If you combine it with chemical knowledge, it's easy to understand the magic of material transformation. Simply put, the essence of the so-called transformation magic rune is to rearrange the structure of molecules through magic, split the original molecular structure, and form new chemical bonds and new molecules. At the microscopic level, it is equivalent to a chemical reaction, but at the macroscopic level, it has achieved material transformation and formed new substances. About 1/3 of the magic power storage was consumed. The pile of rusty scrap iron in Lester's hand turned into an exquisite 10cm long fine steel claw knife in the material transformation array. The carbon and iron element reached a perfect balance that only a skilled blacksmith could achieve, and the rusty scrap iron became an exquisite killing weapon. The man looked at the weapon in his hand with a serious look. As long as I master the molecular formula and the proportion of element, and have enough magic power, I can transform any substance and element out of thin air to form corresponding compounds or single substances. If I'm not afraid of radiation, making uranium-235 is not a problem. Fortunately, there is no chemist like Mendeleev on the Valoran continent, otherwise everyone can become a nuclear peace messenger who makes handmade nuclear bombs and high explosives. Sure enough, scientists are much scarier than magicians. If they don't understand the principles of chemical molecules, these magicians will not be able to make handmade nuclear bombs, even if they are given 1,000 years. Putting aside his fear of magic, the man was still very satisfied with his visible progress. Wait until tomorrow to see if I can buy a few zircon crystals. It is difficult for others to make a perfect soul crystal, but it is very easy for me. As long as you master the crystal structure of zircon, it is not difficult to make an octagonal double cone. It is nothing more than disassembling the unit cell with the basis vector as the original coordinate and reconstructing the crystal state. I just don't know if Eichstall's original axiom is also a magical miracle that uses the physical laws of the universe. Boom. The arcane fluctuation suddenly expanded, and the explosion on the 3rd floor shook the entire wizard tower. Lester put down his claw knife and trotted to the 3rd floor. The closed magic stone door had already opened, and a puff of smoke and dust spread outward. Without caring too much, Lester rushed into the magic laboratory and soon found the dead fish-eyed female wizard wearing rags in a pile of experimental equipment ruins. Seeing the man with a lifeless look, the relieved female wizard spit out a mouthful of blood, rolled her eyes and fainted directly. Looking down, I have to say that the S-shaped figure of the female mage is really good, especially when she closes her dead fish eyes. She is as charming as the sleeping beauty in the fairy tale. Mage Tyrina. After picking up the unconscious female mage with panda eyes, Lester quickly left the magic laboratory after confirming that the stable magic element around her would not cause a secondary explosion. In the bathroom, Lester simply wiped Tyrina's dirty body and then placed the female mage on the bed. Fortunately, the skilled female mage also made magical protection. She fainted only because of the violent magic shock, and she did not cause any serious injuries. There would be no problem if she rested for a while. After confirming that the female mage would not die, Lester breathed a sigh of relief and decided to make something good for the female mage first, so that she would not wake up and be hungry again, chasing him to bite. Just as Lester transformed into a chef, Rose, wearing a mask, appeared at the door of the mage tower with an unchanging expression and knocked on the magic stone door. Who is it? Hey, Lord Lester has a new love, so he has forgotten his old love? What a heartless man. Rose's sour voice appeared outside the door, and Lester's forehead was covered with a layer of cold sweat. How did the great magician find this place out of the blue? Isn't the open class in a week? The stone door opened, and Rose walked into the wizard tower domineeringly as if going home, fixed her eyes on the blazing magic stove, with a kind smile on her face. I was wondering why you didn't have time to open the door for me. It turns out you were busy cooking for the beautiful Tarina chicken soup. Is it poisoned? If not, can you let me have a bite? Facing the jealous woman, the man stirred the fragrant chicken soup without panic, looking like he had a clear conscience. Of course you can eat it. Teacher Tarina just fainted because of the explosion while doing the experiment. That's why I thought of making chicken soup for Teacher Tarina to replenish her body. There is only a pure teacher-student relationship between her and me. Is that so? Facing the skeptical great magician, Lester nodded calmly like a rooster, put down the soup spoon, hugged Rose gently, pecked Rose's little mouth, and said softly, "You are always my favorite. You are so busy, and you deliberately came to me for something urgent, right? Tell me, I will definitely help if I can." Rose lost her temper after being coaxed by the man's combination of punches. Her body also softened a little. She hugged the man with her backhand and buried her head in his chest. Naxos has been unstable recently. The group of idiots in the Supreme Command have been stretched to their limits by a group of rootless bandits. I don't know how the Beru pirates got involved with the Shurima bandits. These bastard looters landed on the southeast coast and wandered westward to cause destruction. I'm afraid they are heading towards the Valoran plains. That idiot Vorks even lost the looters. He's really useless. So Nadars thought of me. Yeah, they thought of you, but they found me. My man, what are you going to do? Before the man could answer, Rose stared at the naked female mage rubbing her eyes and walking down the stone steps in a daze. Her legs were still trembling, and she looked like she was overworked. Lester, what did you cook that smells so good? I want to eat it. With a swish, the man broke out in a cold sweat. Chapter 171 War Between Women. The atmosphere froze instantly. Facing the unconscious holy light priest Irina, Lester felt like he was a piece of yellow mud falling off his crotch. Wiping the non-existent cold sweat on his forehead, the man calmly turned off the magic stove and picked up the pot. Ahahaha, the chicken soup is here, what are you standing there for? Let's eat together. Pulling the sneering Rose to the dining table and settling her down, Lester diligently prepared a set of tablour. Tarina was quite conscious and went to the table. Suddenly, she turned her head and looked at Rose with a surprised look, as if she had just seen the woman in front of her. Huh, Ms. Rose, why are you in my house? With her hands folded on her chest, Rose responded with a polite sneer. I came to find my husband, but I don't know why he lives with you, Master Tarina. Is there no extra accommodation in the academy? Is that so, Lester? So your partner is Ms. Rose. Ms. Rose, your husband is good to use. I like him very much. Tarina patted her chest with sudden realization, and the headlights made Rose even more unhappy. What do you mean my husband is good, and you like him very much? Listen, is this human language? It seems that Mage Tarina has too much research and development funds, and she has time to hook up with other men openly. Lester had expected Tarina's late realization. This female mage was only focused on doing magic experiments and didn't care about other things at all. To put it nicely, she is innocent. To put it bluntly, she is just stupid. Until now, she is still unconsciously fanning the flames. She must know that Rose is her boss's boss's boss, right? In order to calm the dispute and keep his stupid teacher's research funds, Lester quickly changed the subject. Rose, it's not convenient for me to leave the academy, and there's no need to go there specifically for the raiders. You can just take my handwritten letter to Margaret, and she will make the corresponding arrangements. That's a solution. I have the right to take you in and out as you please, but it's really unnecessary. Okay, the chicken soup won't taste good if it gets cold. Eat it while it's hot. I still need to buy some things, so I'm leaving. You can't leave. It was Tarina who stopped the man. My lab hasn't been cleaned up yet. Lester never served me like this at home. Do you treat my husband as a servant? Tarina? Rose raised her eyebrows and her tone became colder. Lester broke out in a cold sweat. Didn't he even say the honorific mage? Tarina, think about your research funding. If you keep talking back, it will be gone. I have to go out to work too. Tarina stood up and looked directly at Rose. She has never been a woman who fears authority. He is the only student I trust and the only assistant I trust, but he is not a servant. You can't describe my students like that. Haha, I don't see how you look like a teacher. Which teacher would be naked in front of his students? Are you a teacher? I don't even bother to say anything to you. Even the bitches in the back alley wear more than you. Do I need your permission to wear clothes in my own home? Rose, I think you have forgotten who gave you enough funds to build a home. That's enough, you two. Seeing that the two women were about to start a fight, Lester could no longer sit still and picked up Rose and walked upstairs. I'll go upstairs and have a good talk with Rose, and I'll clean up your lab later. Looking at the two people upstairs expressionlessly, Tarina tore off a big chicken leg and started chewing it until Rose's intermittent begging for mercy came from the second floor. Sure enough, there is always only one powerful way for a man to persuade a woman, and that is persuasion. But no matter what, this is also his own home, right? Just let those two people use his bed at will. She has never been a woman who hesitates. Tarina cleaned her hands with magic, stood up calmly, and walked upstairs. Since you can't swallow this breath, then prepare yourself. It's time to study how to have a baby. LeBlanc felt that her soul flew out of the clouds, wandering under the vast starry sky, swimming freely under the gaze of the stars. Rose fainted directly, which surprised the man. Is there something wrong? Will it kill someone? Looking at Rose sleeping in a daze, Lester seemed to feel a faint call in addition to worry. The closed lake of the soul before was like an eggshell with a crack. At this moment, it seemed that it might be broken from the inside. Could it be because of his westernization movement just now? Then Lester, who was lost in thought, suddenly saw Tarina, the female mage, standing in front of him, recording the experiment manuscript. The female mage with panda and dead fish eyes scared the man directly. When did she stand there? Oh, it seems that the great Lady Rose is just a weak woman. Write it down. Write it down. After writing and drawing for a while, no one knew what Tarina wrote down. The female mage dropped the manuscript and magic pen and stepped forward to hug him. The man's body froze. However, 1 minute passed, and then 2 minutes passed. Neither of them made any new moves. It was the man who opened his eyes and broke the awkward atmosphere. Mage Tarina, what are you doing? Take over Lady Rose's job so that you don't kill the leader of the Thorn Watcher quietly and end up affecting my research funds. Do you know who has your research funds? Lester couldn't complain. Aren't you afraid that the boss will kill you? Ahem. Although this reason is sufficient, but you are my teacher, Master Tarina. I respect you very much, and I don't want the pure feelings between us to deteriorate. Moreover, we have been together for less than a month, and you trust me so much. How can I? Well, it seems that it is not the right time to suppress your desire with so many excuses. Maybe the favorability is not enough. Man, it's none of your business. Letting go of the man, Tarina picked up the unconscious Rose expressionlessly in Lester's shocked eyes, shook her arms, and threw her directly to the ground. Rose rolled, face down like a broken sack and fell hard. I allowed you to climb onto my bed, but I didn't allow this woman to climb onto it. I threw away some garbage. Can you understand? Until Lester moved Rose to the sofa on the first floor, he still didn't understand whether Master Tarina was taking revenge on Rose or on himself for rejecting her. It's rare that a man is confused about a woman. You say, is a man who has sex for 10,000 yuan a day for 7 days short? Chapter 172 The Snake Calling Priest and the Fierce Sand Bandits. The confidential meeting room of Emerald Territory. Thanks to the excellent carrier pigeons, 4 days after Lester wrote 3 handwritten letters, Margaret received a new order from the Lord in due time. Shurima sand bandits and Beru pirates landed in the coastal areas. What kind of combination is this? For some reason, Margaret smelled a hint of conspiracy between the lines. If pirates and sand bandits who are incompatible with each other can get together to smell each other's stinky farts and body odor, it can only be a shocking treasure, right? Captain Margaret, is this the Lord's new order? The Archon of Emerald Territory, the former elder of the Mombia people, Harold, put down the quill in his hand and looked at the real controller of Emerald Territory, the commander of the Black Guard in the Black Iron Guard, General Hearteater, in confusion. Perhaps it was because the woman had committed too many sins of killing. Even if she was 5 or 6 meters away from the Hearteater, Harold could feel a chill that was breathtaking. Take a look for yourself. After handing Lester's handwritten letter to the somewhat elderly Archon, Margaret came to the top secret map drawn by Nightblade. Unlike the previous overly simple regional maps, after the Nightblade special survey, the new military map not only marked the terrain and regional names, but also depicted the villages and newly built fortresses on the map according to a certain proportion. Most of the villages and outposts on the west coast of Demacia in the west, the 3 peaks of Pagras in the Immortal Fortress in the east, and the south of the Urus Mountains. The detailed information of most of the Valoran continent was condensed on this seemingly simple map, including the underground fortress and defense plan of the Silver Mountains that the Emerald Territory was about to build. It can be said that the most precious thing in the entire confidential meeting room is this map. If someone breaks through the Emerald Territory, Margaret's first thing to do is not to fight back, but to destroy this map. Looking at the Valoran plain east of the Nokmachi plain, Margaret's side kept wandering back and forth over a dozen large villages on the Valoran plain. The symbols of mountains and rivers formed a 3-dimensional figure in her mind. Margaret already had several reliable predictions about the route of the looters. Hundreds of looters are heading west. So, are we going to send troops to the Valoran plain? Yes, we have to block them in front. Thinking about the route of the troops and the logistics supply issues, Margaret pointed to a village in the northeast of the Valoran plain, near the branch of the Black Iron River. Deploy the ships, and follow the Black Iron River eastward. In less than a week, the soldiers of the Black Iron Guard will reach the Valoran plain. According to intelligence, if this group of looters want to go west, they will definitely pass through the village of Slanka. Lord Vorks will chase them from behind, and the Black Iron Guard will block them from the front. The looters will definitely fail. Since they will definitely fail, if they go west, why do the looters go deep into the hinterland? Harold was a little puzzled. In his opinion, if this group of looters landed in Naxos just to cause destruction, then there is no need to go all the way west. That would only lead to a dead end. So, they have other purposes, and it is definitely not just a simple alliance. If they want to leave, this group of looters can only cross the Valsu Mountains. But how can the Valsu Mountains be easily crossed? Even if they want to obtain something special, they should consider how to leave after obtaining it, and should not seek death. No matter how you look at it, these two groups of looters should not act like this. So, they actually have another way out. Margaret nodded silently, her eyes fixed on the Valsu Mountains. After passing through the dry and barren mountains and hills of Naxos, the raiders finally set foot on the green plains of Valoran. Fortunately, the first snow in the northern continent has not yet condensed. For the raiders who have adapted to the hot climate of the southern desert and tropical islands, the cold at this moment is not enough to make them dance in place. Taking the roasted lamb leg from the campfire, the man with tattoos of sea beasts and tentacles on his body began to feast on it. After being chased by the Naxan barbarians for so long, and finally tricked them with the false route, he should have a good rest. Biting the roasted lamb leg, the sea beast priest Sasho always understood that there are many extraordinary powers in this world, and these powers are even stronger than the Great Snake Mother. The Serpentine Islands in the Sea of Watchers are nothing but a ridiculous tiny place for these supercontinents. The Beru people on the islands avoided the disasters on the mainland and lost the possibility of dominating the mainland. If we simply talk about development, a stable continental power only needs 10 years to crush the 30 years of efforts of the Serpentine Islands. The gap in reality is so desperate Just like Narxus now, a short 10 years of development time is enough to chase the most powerful snake caller priests around. Fortunately, the snake mother and the god of sea monsters, Nagakaboris, gave enough divine revelation. Thousands of years ago, the Beru people began their journey to collect mainland treasures. From ancient times to the present, there have always been many extraordinary treasures that will be owned by powerful forces or strong people, but human life is ultimately a drop in the ocean. After a fleeting moment, the strong can only take away a handful of their own dry bones, and no matter how good the treasure is, it will always fall into the hands of others. Naturally, with the help of the snake mother, the Beru people who have the ability to hunt for treasures have the possibility of enhancing their own strength. As long as there are enough powerful treasures, even if the mainlanders invade the Serpentine Islands, they will be blocked by the extraordinary power. Sufficient treasures are the perfect conditions for the Beru people to ensure their own safety in the Serpentine Islands. I say, Master Priest, if we go deeper, we will definitely die. Does the secret passage you mentioned really exist? The disgusting Shurim language came from behind. Without looking back, Sasho knew that it was the idiot leader of the sand bandits who had no culture and only knew how to play with women. If he didn't need some cannon fodder to attract firepower, he would not be willing to travel with these idiots who knew nothing and only knew how to envy wealth. When he successfully returned to the sea, he would personally send these greedy fools into the mouths of sea beasts. Lassaha, I've told you long ago that the purpose of this operation is to obtain the ancient treasures on the Valoran plains. We shouldn't have wasted time with such fanfare from the beginning. If you hadn't insisted on looting those 3 villages, we wouldn't be in this situation now. Aren't the brothers unable to resist? I have to say that the barbarian women of Narxus are quite attractive. It's a pity to kill them all. But we still can't delay the treasure digging. Priest, is our treasure far away? Lassaha recalled the wonderful night with endless aftertaste. After enjoying the beauty's service, the most exciting thing was to chop off the beauty's head with a scimitar and the beauty's fearful expression. Sasho shook his head, stroking the siren skull with magical light on his chest, and listening to the call of the snake mother. Not far away. It's the last day. Let's get 400 votes. I'll start exploding tomorrow. If you don't grow up, you're not a real man. Chapter 173 Ms. Rose's classroom. While Margaret led the Black Iron Guards and a dozen Black Guards to board the boat, Lord Vaux and his warband, who had been running northwest for most of the day, had to reflect on themselves while panting, because at the end of the route, it was not those damned looters, but hundreds of beasts tied together with ropes and running away. And these beasts were eating grass, obviously tired from running. These cunning bastards. They actually used a group of beasts to mislead us. The Narxan Lord slashed the poor cow next to him with a sword, and tyrannically stuck his long sword into the ground. Tonight, everyone, have a good meal. Tomorrow continue to chase in the southwest direction. I must skin those bastards alive. At the Black Rose Mage Academy, Tailai rejected the dinner invitation of Mage Dylan, and hurriedly left the Mage Tower of Estant. Tailai had already told Lester that Dylan had been pestering her, and she agreed with Lester's advice. If a person has become a problem for you, then try to solve the problem. I will pay attention to this matter, but I want to leave it to you to deal with. Sooner or later, I will not be by your side. You must learn to protect yourself. Since she had already begun to be wary of Master Dylan, while the two had not completely torn their faces, Tally decided to learn and use it immediately, and prepare some curse potions that could be used in advance. After making the decision, Tally did not plan to go home, and went directly to the herbal medicine store that she was most familiar with. With Lester backing her up, the woman had more confidence in herself. On November 23rd, Rose's open class arrived as scheduled. As always, the first hall was full, and even many instructor-level magicians walked out of their own magic towers and chose to listen to what the great magician wanted to preach. Of course, this was absolutely not about flattery. When the mica and magic fluorite were shining, Lester sat in the hall with Tally. Even in the Black Rose Mage Academy, there were very few magicians as active as the two of them. Dylan seems to have contacted another wizard apprentice named Talia recently. I have investigated and found that the guy is best at using potions and spells to cleanse other people's memories. Several missing people in the academy seem to be related to Talia. After a moment of silence, Tali said softly, "He has lost most of his patience to deal with me, and he will probably take action against me soon. Tali, tell me about your preparations." Seeing the man holding her hand, Tali felt a little relieved and revealed all her preparations, looking at the man expectantly. "Your preparations are already very good, but not perfect. In this case, whether it is me or others, you should find a helper you can absolutely trust as a trump card. Remember, no matter what time, you must have a safety measure to ensure that you will not fail completely. You can choose not to use it or expose it, but you must not have it. Everyone has times of failure. What we need to do is to give ourselves a chance to stand up again after failure. Do you understand?" Nodding, with the man's supplement, Tali carefully remembered the insurance in her heart and understood what it meant to be invincible. More and more people came to the first hall. At 8 o'clock in the morning, Rose, wearing a well-dressed dark purple thorn rose robe, walked to the podium, causing cheers from the admirers below. The female mage smiled reservedly, raised her right hand, and performed a mage salute. The powerful female mage made the noisy first hall quiet instantly. "Dear mages, I'm honored to stand here and share with you some of my personal understandings of the world runes. I hope that after this class, you can have a deeper understanding of the protagonist of the former rune war." With a brief opening speech, Rose began her public class. Before the island of Blessed Light was covered by shadows and black fog, it was an extremely beautiful place. The powerful natural magic gave birth to the extremely brilliant Helia civilization. On the island of Blessed Light, you can see gardens, schools, libraries, and lecture halls everywhere. On the land, illuminated by the blessed light, there lived a group of islanders protected by the magical white fog. They formed the Ancient Society and created countless shocking secret vaults in a time unit of thousands of years. The secret vaults recorded the most ancient secrets of the world and sealed the secret treasures of the ancient times. This knowledge and wealth allowed the Helia people to achieve world-renowned achievements in agriculture, architecture, astronomy, and runes, and also discovered the first powerful world rune. Holding up the magic crystal ball, Rose used magic vibrations to project the magic image that had been prepared long ago through the crystal ball into the sky above the hall. A triangular luminous runestone appeared in front of everyone in the form of light and shadow. Rose looked at her man and raised the corners of her lips. The stones excavated from the ground entered the sight of mankind for the first time. The Ancient Society conducted secret research and continuously interpreted the strange and energetic symbols on the stones, creating unique rune spells. Compared with the previous violent and unstable arcane magic, rune spells can play a more stable and further specific role. Runes can be used to build stable teleportation arrays, enchant equipment, and serve as energy stones to help magicians meditate super fast. It can be said that the rune spells brought by the world runes have changed the original situation where arcane magic was the only one and created a unique new power system. Applied in architecture, the Helia civilization of Fuguang Island use a Hall of Connection containing the astronomical principles of the lunar meridian and the tropic of the moon as the magic transmission core, and use the rune magic transmission array to build the Great Treasure Pavilion, Temple of Light, Celestial Secret Library, and the giant library that collected countless ancient scrolls. It can be said that the Blessed Island has benefited all mankind through rune magic. At least most mages think so, until the news that the original world rune has great power leaked out. Like a curse, Valoran, Shurima, the First Land, and even the Blue Flame Islands, that is the Serpent Islands, have discovered new world runes one after another. They were tempted by the power brought by the world runes, and an unprecedented disaster came. The world rune projected by the crystal ball dissipated in the flickering, and the powerful force of destroying the world emerged from the air, easily devouring and obliterating countless wailing and fleeing lives. The mountain peaks became valleys, the plains became isthmuses, and the sea flooded the unreachable plateau, all because of that piece of stone shining with colorful rune light. Countless people died in the rune wars. Today's Dalmatians are nothing more than a group of cowards who were once harmed by mages and rune powers. If there had been no rune wars, the immortal bastion would still be in the hands of the Dark Tyrant. It can be said that these stones that contain powerful forces have completely changed the world we live in, but have we really understood these terrible stones? Happy New Year's Eve everyone. According to the extra update rules, 400 monthly tickets plus an extra update from the helmsman. If the name is long, there will be a to read along, a total of 7 extra chapters. 400-100/50 plus 1, including the original 2 updates per day, 7 days, a total of 21 chapters, 7 plus 2 asterisk 7, and because it is Chinese New Year, I happen to have a little bit of drafts in reserve, and I have a lot of my favorite number 7, so I will post a little more for everyone to enjoy, and add 2 more 7s, making a total of 5 7s, 5 updates a day within 7 days. 5 tigers. I wish you all good luck in the year of the tiger, and everything goes well. Chapter 174. The Great Lord of Evil. Tailgap. On the Valoran Plain, a small village of more than 200 people was forcibly driven out of the village. A little to the south, under a dilapidated wizard tower, passive excavation work began. The violators could only get a clean and sharp sword. If they wanted to survive, they had to obey the arrangements of the robbers. Although Sasuo wanted to let these walking desert beasts become food for sea beasts, he had to endure it. At least at this moment, these scum still have their own value. It's here. Dig down. Keep digging down. The revelation of the snake mother from the siren skull made the sea beast priest know that he was not looking in the wrong direction. Under the ground, there was a powerful magic item buried. Evil wizard. Lord Weaker. Save us. The middle-aged man who witnessed his wife being defiled and killed and completely collapsed dropped the shovel in his hand and rushed to the dilapidated stone tower 50 meters away like crazy, shouting the name of magician. He would rather the evil wizard lured all his sheep to have their legs crippled than continue to accept the cruel fact that he had lost his wife. In fact, he was about to use his life to call out the evil neighbor who lived in the wizard's tower. If the evil neighbor was not there, he would really be dead. Catch him. Cut off his head for me. Lasseha has never had the patience to tame such fools who dream of being saved. Death is their only ending. The 2 sand bandits drew out their desert scimitars, sneered and rushed towards the collapsed man, speaking cold and sarcastic words. Do you really think that your savior will live in this broken pile of stones, where even dogs can't live? Master Weaker Wizard. Cut off his arm first, and we'll play slowly. The 2 sand bandits smiled at each other, kicked the man kneeling on the ground. One of them pressed the man's body, and the other pressed the man's right arm to the ground, and raised the scimitar. Lord Weaker. Stop yelling. I'm the Great Lord of Evil. A dictator magician who uses the power of darkness to maintain his reign of terror. My name is Vika, not Weaker. You stupid villager. I have destroyed the right hoof of your green grass believer 3 times, and you still can't remember my great real name? A short wizard wearing the iron armor of a warlord from the old times and shiny polished gauntlets came out of the dilapidated stone tower. His big felt hat covered his small face, making it difficult to see clearly. Lasseha swore that he had never seen a wizard with a hat brim that was twice as wide as his buttocks. Aren't wizards all big guys wearing black robes? Great Lord of Evil? What kind of little thing are you? Little thing. I'm your great-grandfather's great-grandfather's great-grandfather. Thousands of years ago, your ancestors succumbed to my reign of terror. At that time, you were still a pile of shit. When the words came out, Vika realized that he had said too long ago. You know, although his memory has declined greatly, he still remembers that the tyrant who imprisoned him died only 100 years ago. He secretly glanced at the humans present, and Vika secretly breathed a sigh of relief. No one noticed the loophole in the words of the Great Lord of Evil, which was great. Well, compared with 100 years or 1,000 years can better demonstrate the greatness of the evil magician. No problem. Capture this idiot who only knows how to brag. Lasseha was too lazy to talk nonsense with a dwarf tramp who came from an unknown place. He didn't believe that there could be any powerful characters living in such a broken stone tower. On the other side, Sasuo watched coldly and took a few steps back silently, away from the disgusting sand bandit leader, but he also became wary of the uninvited guest who suddenly appeared. Feeling the contempt of humans for himself, Vika's head was hot, and he couldn't help but recall the crazy years when he was imprisoned in the prison of the Immortal Bastion by the tyrant. Look, a ridiculous yodel wants to master the star magic of the celestial world. My yodel child, how did you become my prisoner? The walking iron armored soul uttered a low curse, like a nightmare from hell. The momentum of the tyrant always made people feel deeply desperate. In the dark and terrifying dungeon, the yodel's curiosity about the celestial magic had long been torn to pieces by the terrible rune chains. The lonely yodel was covered with wounds and curled up in the corner of the dungeon, recalling the good old days in Bandle City. He wanted to go back, but he could never go back. In this abandoned place, he couldn't even find anyone to talk to, because the tyrant hated useless captives, so all the prisoners were executed, and he was the only living person in the whole dungeon. When the tyrant left, he would be alone again, accompanied by darkness, silence, and terror. Unwilling to continue living a desperate life in the dungeon, the yodel mage showed a pleading look to the tyrant, which made the tyrant laugh. Perhaps the yodel soul was imprisoned and tortured for so long, just for these few seconds of submission. The tyrant himself was not sure about this, he just enjoyed it all. The lifespan of yodel people is very long, and he has many opportunities to enjoy it. Curiosity is a treasure of yodel people, prove it to me, yodel mage. Putting the hammer, Nightfall, on the ground, Mordekaiser asked his men to pull a dying captive. Along with the captive, there were also a bunch of strange torture instruments and daggers. That was the executioner's personal tool, and its only purpose was to please the tyrant. Prove that your curiosity about darkness will last forever, whether it's 100 years or 1,000 years. Use your curiosity to prove that evil and cruelty can be spiritual food. Forget your ridiculous Bandle City. Let's get started. Don't keep our yodel guests waiting too long. Nodding silently, the dark executioner, whose tongue had long been pulled out by the tyrant, picked up a skinning knife with his dry right hand and saluted the terrified yodel like a dark artist. He stabbed deeply into the toes of the captive, who was completely desperate, and gently stroked it, like the most meticulous sculptor. Soon, a thin layer of skin was perfectly peeled off by the executioner, but the captive was still gasping and wailing in pain. The tyrant laughed happily, and the souls imprisoned by Nightfall sang a hymn of horror. The executioner picked up a boning knife again, and presented the next stage of the wonderful performance to the master and the yodel guests. The yodel wizard was somewhat dazed. The overly brutal and bloody scene in front of him had already been staged countless times. The tyrant was tireless, and used the bodies of human captives to stage dark dramas in various ways, trying to pollute the pure heart. The yodel people were already somewhat numb, and even somewhat accustomed to the tyrant's dark words. Evil, brutal, powerful, and ruling. At this moment, the yodel people forgot the beautiful Bandle City, and indulged in the power of the tyrant. Shaking his head, the yodel people forced the terrible and evil thoughts out of his mind. He didn't understand why he just wanted to learn powerful arcane magic, but he fell into such a field. The evil arcane energy began to condense, and the dark purple forbidden magic rose from the feet of the crowd. The arcane circular wall cage-like sharp claws enveloped all humans. Even the powerful sea beast priest found that he had lost control of his body at this moment. Viga's eyes ignited with burning arcane evil fire. Facing the disgusting human face, the magician raised the evil staff high. Foolish human, you have angered the great lord of evil. I will let you know what true cruelty is. As an aside, the official end of volume 4 is at C246. C172 should have been published in volume 4. The appearance of C172 in volume 5 is purely coincidental. We are trying to figure out a way to deal with it. Please continue reading volume 4. Chapter 175, Sea Beast Priest vs Evil Little Mage. The star magic that fell from the sky condensed into a group of arcane energy balls that destroyed everything, hitting the shouting sand bandits accurately, blasting their fragile flesh into terrible minced meat. The evil energy ejected from the top of the staff split the arrogant body, and in the blink of an eye, hundreds of sand bandits turned into terrible pieces of meat and scattered. The smell of blood spread, and the dead souls began to wail. The villager who was pressed to the ground by the sand bandits gained freedom in a brief moment of unconsciousness. He could never imagine that the ridiculous wizard who always liked to destroy the right hoof of his ewe would have such a terrifying power. compared with the terrible scene of wiping out hundreds of lives in an instant, putting dozens of slugs on the farmland to eat vegetables, placing palm-sized spiders on the cabin to scare women, and intimidating children playing near the stone tower to make them wet their pants. The above evil deeds are as harmless and ridiculous as naughty children making faces and playing. It turns out that the kindness that the magician said was real kindness. Respected and powerful wizard. We are not in the same group with them. The villagers can testify that we have not done anything to harm the villagers. Watching Lasser become Lasser Source before the terrible arcane attack fell on his head, Sasho bowed respectfully to the short figure in front of the stone tower. Now, let alone whether he can dig out the treasure, it is already a blessing to be able to survive in the hands of this yodel wizard. Give up. The sharp voice pierced the sky. Vega had no intention of stopping. He might be unconscious, but he was definitely not stupid. Since he chose to stand with the sand bandits, these evil warlocks with the smell of the sea have already explained everything. Killing evil warlocks, plundering more evil and powerful spells, and maintaining his own reign of terror. This is what Vega has always pursued. How could he stop at this moment? Seeing that the evil yodel wizard had no intention of stopping, at the moment when his first tribe member died, Sasho had to give it a try. Nagakaburus. Shouting the real name of the snake mother again and again in the ancient Beru language, Sasho successfully used the secret method to break the arcane cage that imprisoned his body and threw the siren skull in his arms to the ground. From the broken skull, or three-headed sea snake constructed by the secret magic of sea beasts sprang out. Slap, hit, break his cage. In the secret language of the Beru people, the three-headed sea snake made a piercing scream, and the tentacles constructed by the dark green sea beast magic supported its body, allowing the three-headed sea snake to rush towards Vega like a heavy chariot. Your resistance is meaningless in the eyes of the great lord of evil. Above the stars, only evil is eternal. A ball of energy flashing with deep purple arcane light flew straight towards the three-headed sea beast. The summoned creature exploded when it collided with the arcane energy, and the villagers were blown all over the place. Many unlucky people were directly knocked away, and their limbs were seriously damaged. Even Vega had to retreat into the stone tower in the huge aftermath to avoid its edge temporarily. After the three sea beasts died, the dissipated energy turned into thin balls of light and fell on the surrounding land. One after another, hideous tentacles rose from the ground. Sasho raised his right hand, and the tattoo flashed with dazzling secret light. The man slapped the ground fiercely. Dozens of tentacles flew towards the stone tower. The powerful force easily broke the severely weathered and eroded stones and smashed the stone tower into pieces. This is the true strength of the sea beast sacrifice, and it is also the perfect guarantee for the Beru people to roam the sea. Summon the earth-eating snake man. We don't have much time. Speed up. The looters present died or were injured. Sasho didn't want to waste time anymore and issued an order to the surviving snake caller. Soon, more than a dozen tall snake men constructed by the sea beast secret method began to devour the deep pit that had been dug for several meters and quickly searched for what they wanted. The speed was just a few points faster than using a shovel. This is why the Beru people didn't use summoning magic at the beginning. Under the ruins of the stone tower, a huge hand armor broke through the stone and reached out from the ruins. Dark arcane erupted at the top of the evil staff of the yodel, knocking away the earth and rocks that had accumulated on Vega. A larger imprisonment array took shape in the hands of the yodel mage. Seeing that things were impossible, and not wanting to let himself and his people be completely lost on this strange continent, Sasho could only admit that he was unlucky and ended this treasure hunt early. Retreat. Retreat. The sea fog of the Beru secret magic blocked the yodel mage's imprisonment spell. Calling the name of the snake mother again, using the summoned sea beasts to contain the terrible yodel mage, the Beru people fled to the south under the leadership of Sasho. Master Priest, save me. The surviving Shurima sand bandits looked desperately at the sea fog that could freely shuttle through the deep purple magic halo and took the Beru people away smoothly. Only their mouths could still make insignificant struggles. Unfortunately, the Beru priests, who had long disliked the sand bandits, simply turned a deaf ear to them. Not to mention that the remaining sand bandits could delay for more time. No matter which reason, it was enough for the Beru sea beast priests to completely abandon their former allies. From the beginning, the Shurimasan bandits only served this purpose. Immersed in anger, Vega once again summoned the star magic that fell from the sky, quickly annihilating the disgusting faces. For these bastards who reminded him of the past, Vega did not intend to hold back, nor did he intend to chase the escapees. Having forgotten his original purpose, he only had to destroy everything in front of him, nothing more. When the tyrannical arcane magic completely dissipated, countless terrible deep pits appeared around the ruins of the stone tower. Coincidentally, every villager captured by the looters safely hid from the terrifying magic of the Yodel mage. The most unlucky guys were only affected by the shock wave and the imprisonment array, twisting their ankles and breaking their legs. Looking at the survivors with a satisfied and terrifying look, Vega was extremely sure that these humans who obeyed his terror rule had already recognized his identity as the Great Lord of Evil, which made him a little proud. Evil is waiting for you. After organizing the language for a long time, Vega finally uttered a terrible curse. Facing the villagers with strange expressions in front of him, Vega seemed to find that the fear in the villagers' eyes was not as much as he imagined. Or in other words, this kind of fear was another kind of distortion. That, the evil wizard Wigger. My name is Wigger, not Wigger. I'm a terrifying magician who rules over evil, not a wizard. The Yodel jumped angrily, with the huge gauntlet raised high, as if to grab the heart of the person. Fortunately, the leading human realized his stupid mistake in time, and corrected the slip of the tongue. Evil Mage Vega, we obey your horrible dark rule. Whether you release cursed mealworms to destroy the vegetable fields, summon evil spiders to rule the children, or even kidnap the lamb sheep, we have no objection. We will even renovate your mage tower for you, and we only hope that you will continue to live here and maintain your horrible rule. The village chief looked at the other villagers with strange faces, bowed his body, and spoke sincerely. Stay here, horrible evil magician. Lord Vega. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.